YouTube. Hello. How you guys doing? Hope you guys are doing well. Good to be back. Excited to record the show tonight, as always. Feels like there's a lot of things to go over tonight, which is again, that's exciting. So excited to get into it. We're talking mostly college football because again we have. Sorry about that, camera. 1 second. Yeah, excited for tonight. There's some, obviously, if you're a college football fan like myself, you know that we've got some really, really good matchups this week. We've got Michigan, Penn State at noon at 3:30. Don't move from the couch because we have that amazing Alabama-Tennessee matchup. We're going to be talking about that tonight. We've got TCU, Oklahoma State. That game's intriguing. Who knew that TCU was going to be undefeated at this point? So some really, really good games. You've also got USC traveling to Utah. Utah, even though they've got a couple losses and struggled against UCLA and obviously lost their opener against Florida. Look, you throw out the records, in my opinion, Utah is a very, very difficult place to play. So, yeah, should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. So we're breaking that all down today. It'll be good. It'll be good. Plus, we've got some conspiracies in the making. Which is always good. If you're new, I just want to say welcome to Fifth and Goal Sports. We've got we're obviously waiting on Josh and Jonny to roll in here, but yeah, if you're new, we live stream our podcast every Monday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's available on all major podcast platforms, and we've got normal content on this YouTube channel as well. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any of the content that we've got coming out. Got a lot of videos kind of in the works in the next few months, because we're going from what we're in now, college football, NFL, baseball playoffs. I gotta sneeze, hang on. Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, I was saying college football, NFL, MLB playoffs, the NHL started already. It really kicks into gear starting tomorrow. You got the NBA starting in basically a week. You got the World Cup about a month and a half away. We're like 6 or 7 weeks away from that. Actually, I think it's 7 weeks from today. Have an exciting interview next week, so don't make that's another reason to subscribe. I'll just keep plugging the stuff that we're doing. Really exciting interview next week. Looking forward to that.
Hey, Aaron.
Hey, what's up?
Nothing much. Doing all right?
Good.
Can you hear me okay with the AirPods, or do you think it would be better with just the laptop audio?
So there's probably a way to do it so where you can hear us through the AirPods, but the mic itself is the laptop. So if you go, let me switch it here.
The mic's better through the laptop, I assume. Then.
Yeah. 1 second.
Okay.
Josh, hello.
Yeah, how's it going?
Good. Yeah, Jonny, in Discord, if you go to where your camera is, actually, I take that back. If you go to where the microphone is, where you would mute, basically on Discord, and there's an arrow right next to it on the bottom.
If I click mute or if I click like user settings next to it.
Are you on phone or laptop?
Oh, I'm on my laptop.
Okay.
It just has a mute, a deafen, and a user settings next to it.
Oh yeah. So if you actually go to kind of the middle of the screen, where you can like, if you like put your cursor on the bottom middle of the screen, you should have like 5 buttons, including there's like a red disconnect.
I got you.
Yeah. So if you hit bottom right arrow next to the microphone, you can select. You could probably leave your output the same, so it goes to your headphones, but you could change the input device to whatever. Probably just
built-in microphone.
Yes, try that.
How does that sound?
Oh, that's way better.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's great.
Yep. Can you still hear us?
Okay, well that did weird things. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
I can't hear you guys.
Oh no.
Oh, because now our audio is also
Sometimes-
coming out of it, coming out of your laptop.
Oh yeah.
I-
I wonder. There's a way you can split it.
I'm not.
You should be
I
able
can hear
to.
you guys.
Yeah. Are we coming through your AirPods now?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Nobody's home. I think I'm just going to go without because I think it's better without. I just got to my parents. So
Yeah, I figured.
sorry.
Yeah, the only reason I'm trying to route through both is because if your audio, if you're trying to hear us through the computer, it'll probably pick up on the recording. So that's why we probably need to split, if possible,
I can do that.
if we can figure that out.
Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, if you want your, I think you can check your. I think you can select your input device being the laptop and and maybe your outputs, being your AirPods.
Mm-hmm.
The output should be.
Output should
I'm
be
sorry,
your
say
AirPods.
that again, Josh. Okay. And then the input should be the built-in mic.
Correct.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. See if that works.
Go ahead and say something, guys.
Yeah.
Can you
Check.
hear me?
Check.
Hello. Check.
Huh.
Boopity boo.
Yeah, because I know, like, I
How
have
about
mine
now?
split. Because my input's
same.
my mic.
Oh no,
but
actually,
I have-
mine are unified.
But I wonder if that's because of the software I'm using. Say it again.
Can you hear me all right
Yeah,
now?
there it goes.
Yep, we got you.
Okay, because I have input on built-in mic
Yeah.
and I have output for my AirPods. And
Yeah.
I can hear you guys just fine.
Okay,
You good?
and we're
Perfect.
coming through your AirPods?
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay.
Awesome. There we
Sweet.
go.
Well, that's step one.
Oh, I
Um,
should probably open Audacity.
Yeah, I was going to say step
Yeah.
2 will be reconfiguring Audacity, but that'll be basically the same thing.
Same thing. Yeah, should be skip. Yeah, you'll want built-in microphone for the inputs, and then
Output's whatever.
output doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay, so
'Cause
input
you're not
needs to
monitoring.
be-
So yeah, if you're on Audacity, basically where it would usually say Elgato Wave 3, you'll just want to make
Yeah.
sure it says built in or whatever.
built-in microphone.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
it does. And then built-in output. Is
Yeah,
the-
that's fine, and yeah, you can even do a test recording real quick too to make sure you're working. But that should be fine. That sounds good.
Okay. I don't think I've ever changed that one. So yeah, let me do a test recording.
Yeah, sure.
Because I don't want us to record it and then it's not good.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
all
no
good.
problem.
Testing
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
YouTube,
Tennessee
hello
is
again for
back.
those that are rolling in. Hope you guys are
Dead.
doing well.
YouTube, hi.
Testing.
Did you get enough sleep, YouTube?
That's a great
look
question. Dang. Josh called out chat. Chat, you guys look
Are you-
tired.
Chad, are you eating?
Yeah,
Matt, call your mom.
Yeah, that's right. How you guys doing? If you're out there, hope you're doing well. And if you're watching on replay, you also look sleepy, so I guess. All right, should be good. Should be a good show though. I'm excited. There's these games this week are whew. And
It's
then
gonna
we
be
obviously
fun.
have to get your thoughts. I didn't put this in the show notes, but obviously it kind of goes without saying, and maybe I'll open just by asking about the the game on Saturday and see if you could hear the tears of Sooners fans from your apartment.
Oh no, it was yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. Johnny, are you all good? I think the only thing is you're muted on Discord, but otherwise.
I did that while I was checking out the recording.
No, that
we
makes
are
sense.
good. All
Sweet.
right.
All
I
right.
will
Thanks
start
for
recording
thanks for
now.
configuring all your stuff and
Yeah. First time I didn't have my mic. Normally somehow I.
Oh, that's all
always have
good.
my mic.
I mean, you've been traveling all day long, so I think that's kind of forgivable. All right. I
I'm
will
good and
stop
record.
my music. Check. All right, I'm recording. You guys good?
I should probably record.
All good.
Sweet.
Yep, I'm in.
All right.
Let's
Just
talk to it.
also want to say real quick hello to everyone on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. If at any point while we're going through our podcast, if you have anything you want to contribute to the conversation, just type it in chat and we'll talk about it. That's kind of why it's one of the reasons why we stream on YouTube. So thanks for being here. All right. I will get us started.
Here we go.
Welcome to the Fifth and Goal podcast. My name is Aaron. I am joined, as always, by my good friends Josh and Jonny. We are back with another episode. It is episode 83. And guys, we've got a great week in store for us, especially on the college football landscape. But as it feels like we seemingly always do this time of year, we kind of just rattle through the list of things that are happening. So strap in, because here you go. You, of course, have college football. You've got the NFL. We had the NHL that started on Friday that really kicks into gear on Tuesday. Major League Baseball playoffs were through the wild card round, moving on to the divisional round. The MLS playoffs are here. The NBA is a week away. It is just, and I'm sure I'm missing, there's probably other things I'm missing in all of that. It's crazy. October is an amazing time for sports. So I hope you are enjoying it. You, the listener, thanks for making us part of your day. And guys, before we get into it, Josh, what's up, man? How was your week?
We are here. We had a good week. I'm referring to myself now in the plural, apparently.
Okay.
But man, it was a great time. We'll get into it in just a sec. But man, the Red River Showdown, the Red River Shutouts,
yeah.
We were expecting a lot of cheers, being able to. I'm only like a mile or two from the Cotton Bowl, if that. And so I was expecting a lot of cheers, but it really did feel like one great cry that was immediately silenced as soon as Texas took the lead. So it has been a chill week here. Any UT fans are very just joyful, and every Oklahoma fan has left the States.
Yeah. Did you make your way over to Big Tex yet at all?
Big Tex is too big for me to go near him.
Oh, okay.
We will. There was a group of my friends going on Saturday. I was not mentally ready yet, so
that's
I got to build up some courage, and we'll head out. It ends October 22nd, I believe. So I have a few. I have just almost 2 weeks to build up the courage to go look at them real quick.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And need a deep fried charcuterie board or whatever else is there.
Wood and all, yum. Jonny, welcome back. You're fresh off the road. Thanks for joining us.
Always on the road, Yeah, good week. Apparently, I'm only allowed to have one good soccer team at a time. So we have sacrificed the crew for the time being for Arsenal's success. So Arsenal took out Liverpool 3-2. They're here to stay. The crew choked away another lead late in that one, this time to finally finish them off. So mercifully. So
yeah,
up and down weekend in that sense.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I get that. I feel like I was in a similar situation where on Saturday, here we are again, another week of me sitting down, watching Ohio State on Saturday, feeling pretty good about my team, definitely worthy of the number one ranking that we have given them. Again, I refer you once more to the Fifth and Goal poll, the only real college football poll
we didn't
out
struggle
there.
Against Indiana, so
you're right. Because, we haven't played them yet. But you're right. I mean, to your point.
Won't.
Yeah, I don't think we will either. But Ohio State looks good. I mean, they did the usual drubbing of Michigan State that we've become accustomed to. So went from the joy of Saturday that was mixed in there, just absolute chaos. I had an early morning on Sunday, so I was like, all right, I'm like ready to go to bed a little bit early. And then Alabama, Texas A&M happened. Then USC and Washington State. That game was intriguing late. So, of course, in typical fashion, did I go to bed on a reasonable hour on a Saturday? No, but that's okay. But then on Sunday, of course, I thought the Detroit Lions were maybe just unfortunate and their defense just was not playing well. And then they got beat 29-0 by the Patriots. And now I'm afraid the Lions are the worst team in the NFL. So we're just in full out panic mode there. And maybe we'll discuss and get into that a little bit later. But it is
not worse, Aaron. Just bottom 5. Not worse.
They might get there.
They can't even be worse. They can't even be the best at being the worst. This is not great.
It's really bad.
It's a very level year in the NFL. Contrary to what everybody came in expecting.
To be fair,
every single team has a win. 5 weeks in? Every single team has a win. I mean, because Houston was the last team, and they even had a tie already. Mm-hmm. So it's, Philly easily could have lost in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
they're the only unbeaten team left. I think that's pretty rare for it to be 1,000,000 3-2 and 2-3 teams.
But I think that's what almost makes it worse for me, right? As a Lions fan, I would think of any year of all of this parity that, the Lions probably should be 3-2. And I tweeted this out, I think yesterday. I am sitting in a world where my Detroit Lions are 1-4, and I'm looking at the New York Giants, who are 4-1. And no disrespect to them, I'm happy to see them 4-1. The Jets even have 2 wins this year. So it's
3. Aaron.
3, sorry.
3.
Yeah, you're right. They came in with 2. Yeah. So
3-2.
Oh gosh. Well, I rest my case there.
Even the Jets.
I rest my case there. Anyways,
backup quarterbacks abound.
Yeah, it's
but
crazy.
You know what, Aaron? You do have this.
Tell me, Josh.
At the very least, you have. And this might be different down here. No one hates the Lions. No one is like, y'all are 1-4. But it's also not. But it's also not like pity. I mean, there's a bit of pity. Of course, there's pity. It's like, you look at a sick puppy who just keeps breaking his leg. Like, aw. But like, there's a little bit of that. But there's this genuine, at least for me, I see a genuine desire for this team to do a thing. Yeah. And like, it's like, it's going to be like, all the joy that people felt when the Mariners finally made.
Sure.
The playoffs for the first time in 20 odd years.
Mm-hmm.
Like when the Lions do well, and they will, it's, you could probably spend the next hour of this podcast talking about the things they need to do differently. Yeah. But once they get those things done, the amount of joy that's going to be felt, it's just like everyone's low key excited. People are generally excited for the Bills being good. They're worried about how the world will implode.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Genuinely worried because, again, Buffalo Philly Super Bowl will end in the end of the Northeast. There will be no Northeast after that. New York will be gone.
Yeah.
The NFC East is the center of the football world right now. Who would have thought?
We did. We certainly predicted that, right? That's what we got. That's what we said. We didn't make fun of it and call it the NFC least.
Aaron.
Yeah.
Can you delete that one episode where we did call them the NFC least?
Yes,
and we can just pretend.
I would like to say I did pretty well with my Eagles predictions still.
You did.
There's a little bit of safety there for me, just a little.
Hey, and you know what? I'm not dead with the Cowboys. Thank you, Cooper Kupp.
You're not wrong.
Shockingly.
Who knew?
Not terrible.
Giants, no one saw. So
no,
I think we're all on that one.
Yeah, no one. They didn't even see that.
Well, while I'm deleting clips of that, I will also just go ahead and delete all of our college football playoff predictions. We're basically halfway through the season. I regret to look. I need to eat some crow here.
We'll give you the next few minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to take a few minutes. Oklahoma, I had them in my playoff. I apologize to all of our listeners, all of our viewers, every fan of college football for what is just an egregious and horrendous decision on my part. I apologize. I will be taking probably a couple of hours suspension of social media at some point, probably while I'm sleeping, just to think about the choices that I've made. I don't know. I had to pick someone from the Big 12. Apparently, I should have picked TCU. TCU is heading into an undefeated matchup against Oklahoma State. But before we get into the games from this week, I do think should we just roll through how poorly Oklahoma played in, Josh, as you called it, the Red River shutout. I mean, wow, that game
Can I
was
give you all some
crazy.
stats? Can I give you all some stats?
Please do.
Because I know we love our numbers. No, some of these stats actually just might be made up because I cannot find them off the top of my head.
I'd believe them all.
But generally speaking, for the past 20 or 30 odd years, this is how a Red River Showdown has gone. It is either, it's one of two things. It is either a close game that's within 10 points of each other, either Texas or Oklahoma winning, or it is an Oklahoma shutout. Or Oklahoma wide margin victory, not necessarily shutout. I don't believe Oklahoma has, first off, ever been shut out. Two, this is the widest margin of victory in the, I believe, 120 plus year history. The previous record was, I believe, 47 points, which I also believe Oklahoma has never given up.
That's
I gotta
probably
double check
true.
that.
Yeah, I would believe that.
And it happens in Dallas. Listen, I'm looking at their schedule. First off, we're shocked. I think we're all shocked that their back half of the schedule is actually tough now. But I'm looking, I mean, they're hosting Iowa State. They're at Oklahoma State, at Kansas State, hosting TCU, at Kansas, hosting Baylor.
It's the curse.
We don't know if they're. We don't know if it's not winnable. We don't know if their schedule's not winnable at this point. Like this is.
Oh, this could get real bad, Josh.
This
You're
could
right.
get real bad. Like I don't know what's going on. Texas. Listen, I don't think they're going to win out, but listen, Quinn's back.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking at a tweet the other day. Like this is, and I'm so boggled by this. Quinn doesn't get out. There's a chance they're 6-0 right now.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
if they've beaten Bama, they're top 4, if not 1.
Yep.
Like
they'd be number 1.
Now they've not been. They still have
Alabama, you get to be number 1.
It's a little congratulations. Which first off would ultimately it's good because they would never shut up about it ever, ever. If they win out, which we don't think they will, but if they win out, they're a 2-loss team with wins over every other every other Big 12 team, like 2-loss conference champ. Given the fact that the SEC is obviously not as strong as we thought it would be, what are we thinking as far, again, it's a long way away. Clemson has to lose. Ohio State and Michigan both have to lose. Like, it's not going to happen. But
it's interesting though, Josh, what you're saying, because you're saying because both losses happen when Quinn's hurt.
Yeah,
and
I mean they were both tight, and they were tight losses. They were not shutouts.
Yeah, what a combined 9 points, I think.
Yeah, combined 9 points. I mean, we joke about quality losses, but those are fine losses. Losing the guy who's supposed to be your guy for the next year or two. Like that's not bad. That's not bad at all.
The Alabama game, they outplayed them completely. The refs kind of screwed them. I'm not asking the committee to really take that piece into consideration.
Oh, don't worry. They don't watch the games anyway. But
that's true. But it's pretty clear, like, Texas wins that game if Quinn's not hurt. Like, I don't think that's really arguable.
He played so well in that first quarter.
So well.
Oh,
and
truly.
They should have won even with Hudson Card in the game. So, and then Texas Tech, that's just assumption because we didn't get to see him there. But you like to think Quinn's worth, I don't know, what did they lose by a touchdown in overtime?
Something like that, yeah.
Think he's worth a few points in regulation.
Worth a coin flip at the very least, yeah.
Out of Lubbock. It's an interesting point. You're right. There needs to be some chaos, Josh, but Texas could easily be one of the 4 best teams at the end of the year.
I was gonna say, at the very least, they could be sniffing a New York 6, or sorry, New Year's 6.
Oh,
not a
for
New
sure.
York 6.
Yeah,
they'll be in the Big 12 title game.
Yeah,
I'd
absolutely.
be stunned, honestly, if Texas isn't in the Big 12.
Now, to be fair, we do know the history of Texas. This is usually the turning point. Red River Showdown is usually that turning point. That's the hump where things start to go back. Because remember, it was a close loss last year, and then it was 1,000% just a train wreck afterwards.
But consider also how that loss was, though, right?
Oklahoma, they have handed that off to the Sooners.
Yeah,
I
guys,
think Texas
About
going to be just
Oklahoma.
fine.
About Oklahoma.
Let's talk about Oklahoma. Let's just, you know what? Yeah, let's stop giving Texas credit, which is good when we should. Let's dump on Oklahoma for a sec.
Hear me out. A couple things.
First time they've had 3 losses in like 25, 30 years. It's great.
It feels like it. Yeah. There's a couple kind of schools of thought in my mind from this. Either you think that Brent Venables will be okay, he'll figure things out. Statistically, a new coach at a college program is 5-7. That is the average record across the board for a new college football head coach. There's also a second school of thought that this is just not going to work at all because of what a dumpster fire this season is turning into. Guys, we witnessed, and Josh, you said it, 120 years of Oklahoma playing football. This was their worst loss ever in program history. You cannot find a worse loss. I mean, technically I think there's maybe 2 other games offhand that they had a worse score, but considering the context, considering that both teams had the same record, what this meant for Brent Venables in his first time playing Texas, this was Oklahoma's worst loss ever. You said the schedule. They could potentially lose every single one of those games. I think they probably find a way, but I think we're talking about a team at risk of just completely missing a bowl game.
Yeah.
This will be a great test for
Absolutely.
Venables because this season's washed. As far as everything Oklahoma had set out, like, look, they were in my playoff. I've already apologized to you, and I will continue to apologize profusely.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a test for Venables, not in the sense that will he be the right guy or not. This is a test right now. How good of a leader are you? What can you salvage from a 3-3 start, a 3-game losing streak? What can you salvage here? I think that's the question. And if they go 3-9 or 4-8, I think that unfortunately is going to speak more to me that the fact that Venables couldn't get his team to get up for some of these games. Because yes, they are not very deep. They lost a lot to the transfer portal. I figured some of the additions they made would overcome that. It really has not, and they're just small injuries here and there, and their depth has been depleted. So that's partly a concern, but they're still talented enough that they should beat Baylor. They should beat Iowa State. As good as Kansas has been, they still should beat Kansas. Based on talent alone. Now, I'm not saying they will, because I love that Kansas team.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope Kansas wins.
That Kansas team,
yeah.
like, if you had any doubt about them, that should have been gone after last Saturday.
Yeah.
They lose their star quarterback, and they are still nearly taking out.
Still almost there.
Yeah.
I mean, nearly took them out there at the end of the game. I mean, they're driving down. I mean, they don't convert. I think they're at like TCU's 30-yard line on 4th down. And I mean, they were coming for them the whole game. They were down a touchdown the whole time, and they kept coming right on back. The bigger question for the Kansas-Oklahoma game is just who can recover psychologically a little quicker. Because don't underestimate how hard that will be for Kansas to get back up for the next game. They're not ready. They're not used to having that level of success. You had game day. That was the loudest that place has ever been. The crowd was hyped up, and to come up just short is tough. And then Jalen Daniels, is he healthy? Like, that obviously all matters. Kansas, even if Bean's the quarterback, though, they're going to put up some yards on that soon.
We'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Dylan Gabriel back? Like that, there's a lot of questions. That's why I don't kill Oklahoma as much. I really wanted to see General Booty out there, honestly, for Oklahoma at quarterback. That probably should have happened. What you said though, Aaron, they just lost. I think undervalued the losses that they had, and just the expectation that they would reload. I just, hindsight, obviously, but it's hard. But look at Notre Dame with Marcus Freeman. You started off 0-2, they bounced back 3-2. It's definitely possible. But they got to get this Kansas game. I think this is a critical game to save the season and salvage anything.
Absolutely.
Because that's what it was for Notre Dame. They snuck out a win against Cal, and the whole season flipped.
Yeah.
It can still happen. You have enough talent on the roster. You have enough skill players to, they're not going to have a great year, but Oklahoma could still finish 7-5, 8-4, and be just, it's not good, but you're fine, and rebound going into the next year. If you can beat Kansas, you really have to get that one. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, speaking of injured quarterbacks, I feel like that's a good segue into some of the games that are coming up this week. Let me give you a rundown of some of the key games in college football this week, because this could be the best week we've had so far, just in terms of the premier matchups. So we're starting the day with a noon kick. Penn State travels to Michigan, a Big Ten clash. That's exciting. We really haven't had too many notable Big Ten matchups. We're getting our first there. Alabama then heads to Tennessee at 3:30. And then to cap it all off, we've got some Pac-12 action. USC heads to Utah. And even though Utah's 4-2, that Rice-Eccles Stadium is still a very difficult place to play. But let's start. It's the title of potentially this episode that I have not named yet. It's the title of our live YouTube stream. Again, we do record this show every Monday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Shout out to our YouTube folks watching right now. But guys, I want to get your take on this Tennessee-Alabama game. Apparently, this is just the episode where I'm going to sit here and talk about all the wrong predictions I gave. Because a couple weeks ago, I sat here and said, I don't think Tennessee's real. I think they probably lose to Alabama. I think they probably lose to Georgia, and they finish 9-3 because that's what they always do.
Yeah, you have to.
I feel far less confident in that prediction now. Now, part of it is Alabama and Georgia. There's some holes, notably, really just the health of their quarterbacks first and foremost. But there's some holes that have been continually poked in some of these teams. Texas A&M was able to exploit that almost to the point where they won again. I mean, you really couldn't drop a worse play on 1st and goal from the 3 with 5 seconds left. But that conversation has been had on social media. I don't need to get into that. But guys,
the short end, Alabama didn't win that game based on a good defense at the end. It was a terrible play call.
Yeah. I mean,
that was not A&M's. I mean, it was not it was not on Alabama's credit that they won that game.
Yeah, they found a way. They avoided complete disaster. But Johnny, I know you've been hyping up Tennessee all week. This is not one of our picks of the week. I feel like it probably should be. Maybe we can make it that. I know we've got a bunch of stuff we're picking this week.
We should.
All right, we'll throw it in there. We'll add it to picks of the week. So a little pre-picks of the week.
Get a parlay down.
I think I'm still sticking with Alabama. It depends on if Bryce Young is playing, I'm going to pick Alabama. If he is not, I'm picking Tennessee. But Johnny, you are fully on the Tennessee bandwagon.
They're going to win either way.
Wow.
It'll look very similar to when Joe Burrow and LSU rolled in there and took Alabama out with Tua. Didn't know if Tua was playing. He ended up playing, played quite well. Didn't matter. And Joe Burrow and LSU beat him down. Tennessee is on a scorched earth war path coming for Alabama. They're ready. They've been getting beaten down by Alabama and Georgia for the last decade and a half. They're ready for theirs. Hendon Hooker is everything that we were promised in Will Levis. And yes. I know if you listen again to the podcast, you know I know nothing personally against Will except for the mayo and the coffee. I can't get over that one. Oh. But Hendon Hooker, I don't understand why he's not being talked about more. Not only does he protect the ball, it's explosive plays. His biggest primetime games, he shows up in that Florida game when they needed him most. Florida's been just the boogeyman for Tennessee. And he just came up with play after play after play. Legs, feet, doesn't turn the ball over. Explosive. He's exactly the type of quarterback that beats Alabama. Even with Bryce Young, you saw how they struggled against Texas. And now I don't believe Tennessee's defensive front is quite as good as the Longhorns. You know, Texas held Alabama less than 20 points. I'm not necessarily going to predict that in this game. I don't think Alabama's going to be able to slow Tennessee down. And if Jahmyr Gibbs doesn't run wild, which is harder to control than you would think, I don't see how Alabama wins this game, especially because it's in Knoxville and not in Tuscaloosa.
Yep.
And Alabama's had a lot of troubles, even in offensive play calling, getting the play in, false starts, misalignment on the road. They really struggle with crowd noise. Even if Bryce is able to go, he will not be remotely 100%, I don't believe. And so I'm curious to see. I hope Bryce plays. I want him to play. This could be a fantastic game. Hendon could win. Like, I know he's not number one in anyone's Heisman polls right now. He wins the game, he will be.
Oh yeah.
He will be on almost everybody's Heisman ratings, and he will deserve so. He could deserve it now, if we're being honest. They don't have a ranked win, if you will, but Tennessee has beaten LSU, Pitt, and Florida. It's 3 really solid wins. You could put their strength of schedule up against just about anyone at this point in the season, just because they haven't played a bunch of terrible teams and one good one. They've actually played several decent teams, and that's why I really believe in the Volunteer squad. It has to happen at some point. Now, will they beat Alabama and Georgia? That's asking a lot. But I think they've had the Alabama game almost circled more so. Don't forget, they play them every year.
Yeah.
This isn't a random cross-divisional game. They're going to be ready.
Oh, no.
I think that Tennessee offense is going to be potent, even against the Tide.
Yeah, this is called the third week in October. So that's what the rivalry is
classic.
Called. It has been
Such a good
basically
name.
a date that Alabama has been able to circle for the last 15 years as a W. There's a real good chance that streak comes to an end, especially as you said, Alabama on the road. Josh, before you talk about this, there's this weird thing going on with Tennessee fans, and okay, maybe that's just describes everything that Tennessee fans do, but without getting myself into too much trouble, I found it kind of funny on Twitter this week, just kind of scrolling through, seeing Tennessee's thoughts. And there's so much of the, well, if you weren't here for when Tennessee lost to Georgia State and we had a coup and we couldn't find a coach, then you don't deserve to root for this team now. And it's just such a weird thought to me. Like, we're talking about Kansas and all these teams that are like suddenly good. And everyone's like, yeah, hop on this, bandwagon. Yeah, Kansas, let's go. And everyone's like united. Tennessee fans are like, no, if you didn't bleed for this team, you can't root for them on Saturday.
No
and
one
it's so weird to me. Anyways, that's my thought on
I feel like I'm wondering, and I wonder too, like, if this would be like,
honestly.
You do, Jonny. You absolutely
no,
do.
you bleed with Tennessee.
I count.
Hey, because I bought the mug, can I count too?
Yes.
I
I think
bought
we
the
can all
mug.
count
Okay.
because
I think all three
it's
of
not
us,
like
yeah.
we've ever been rooting against them or anything. Like we've followed this team very closely the last decade.
We
I
just
would
know
say.
they're
Josh
great for 3
Fox let
quarters,
me
and
down
then
so
they.
many times.
Yeah.
I picked them to win this
I
game
wonder if
multiple
it's.
times.
Oof.
This could be your year.
I wonder if it's because.
Finally,
This
Iowa
could be
State
it.
has killed
This
me
could be it.
again. I need Tennessee at least.
Yeah. Man, I'm wondering, and I got to double check Tennessee's pedigree. I think they have one. I'm wondering if we'll see something similar with Nebraska, or if OSU were to ever fall to a Tennessee level for 10 or 15 years, where they can barely eke out 500s, and then all of a sudden we're in the national conversation again. If Kansas has, frankly, unless I'm just completely overreading them, Kansas has no football pedigree.
Right.
How dare you insult Mark Mangino?
None. So I'm wondering if there's we used to be good and now we're not, and we stuck through and we suffered, so no one else can like this thing because we earn it more because we suffered for it. I'm like, no. Listen, I'll still buy the merch. That money still spends. And know that Tennessee as a whole doesn't care. Tennessee will take your money, they will take your tickets, and they will be happy for you to wear your checkerboard.
Correct.
Man, I honestly cannot wait to see that stadium. That's why I'm low key running for Tennessee. Tennessee is exactly where Alabama's in probably the worst position. They are. I don't know if I've ever, in my recent memory, if I can imagine. I mean, I guess Georgia last year, but that was different because you knew that it was going to be a game. I don't know if I can remember a game where Alabama should be nervous.
Oh yeah. In
This type of situation, because sure, you're gonna in the playoffs, but usually they've never been concerned about playing the number 4 team or the number 3 team, depending on their seeding. And there's obviously nerves. And you're like, oh, you got to be careful. Got to make sure you're doing it for the championship. But my goodness.
Well, yeah, if Tennessee wins, I don't
like,
think anyone's going to be surprised, right? I mean, even though the line, what's the line, Jonny,
shocked.
in this? Last I looked, it was just
It's
insane.
Still 7.
What'd you say?
7?
Seven?
Well,
Okay.
it was 7 for Alabama favored by 7, which is to
Okay.
me just
What?
shocking.
Yeah, I
It
agree.
was 7.5. I can get you an update here in a moment, but continue.
Yeah, my thought was that even though the line, even though Vegas, and I get it, they've got to balance it out. It may be because so many people are
Yeah.
betting one way or the other. Either way,
Yeah, it's Alabama 7.5,
okay,
which is crazy to me.
that is crazy to me. If this was January 1st in Ohio, I would think about that one.
Right.
Anyways,
Yes.
yeah, I think this will be fascinating. Is there any college football fan other than an Alabama fan or potentially a Georgia fan, because it would maybe benefit them if Tennessee loses just because they're in the same division? Is there going to be anyone in America not rooting for Tennessee? Josh, to your point, like I'm going to be, we try to be relatively neutral on this podcast, but I'll 100% be rooting for Tennessee without question. That stadium is going to be insane. I'm a little upset game day's going back, not because that game doesn't deserve it, but because they were just there. Like you could have gone to
They were
Syracuse
just
for the
there.
First time. Syracuse is undefeated, good for them. But
Well, they shouldn't have been there the first
Well,
time. Though.
yeah.
Like there were other games
Correct.
to go to instead of Florida, Tennessee.
Yeah.
That I don't have a problem with this week. It
yeah,
was just like,
that's fair.
I
That's
should have gone somewhere else.
But we do acknowledge 5-0 ranked Syracuse on this podcast. I should just point that out. Yeah, guys, I guess we'll do our pre-picks of the week. We're not quite to that segment yet, but yes, let's include it. I'm going to say Alabama for now. I may change my pick, and I will let you guys know if I do, as just to keep it transparent. I'm saying Alabama for now. Johnny, you're saying Tennessee. Josh, who are you picking in this game?
These volunteers know how to kill elephants. We'll see if that works. Yeah, I'll take Tennessee.
I'm going Vols by 14.
Ooh,
14.
all right.
I'm taking the over 60. I think the line is, or what is it, 65.5. I'm taking the over, but I don't think it's gonna be that much of a runaway. I'll take them by 10. I'll take Tennessee by 10.
Man, that's bold. I would, if I was taking Tennessee, I'd take him like walk-off field goal. Oh, my goodness, you guys are confident. All right, good. I'm curious. I mean, that's the thing that scares me. That's why I'm picking Alabama, because everyone's like, yeah, Tennessee's going to beat them by 10 and 14, whatever. Like, look, Nick Saban has just broken my brain, I think, because he just doesn't usually allow his team to get beat like that. Even in the national championship, it didn't feel that way. In fact, we actually had a YouTube video coming out that said why why Georgia won't beat Alabama. Of course, they did. But you're right. This feels completely different.
But a quick video saying why Tennessee won't beat Alabama. Do it quick.
Yeah, that's true. Well, speak it into existence by proclaiming that it cannot happen. So, all right, very good. Well, let's move on and just touch on a couple other notable games. Let's go back to the Big Ten, that Penn State-Michigan game. And this is intriguing. Penn State has at least played somebody with a pulse, and no offense to Maryland or Indiana, but this is truly Michigan's first real test. They get it halfway into the season. They, of course, are 6-0. Any thoughts on this game? I think Michigan pulls it off, but Sean Clifford for Penn State, he's a quarterback that's been around for a millennium, so I'm not going to count the Nittany Lions out. If they can run the ball, Penn State's going to win. But I think that front four, Michigan's going to figure it out.
Yeah, that's my thing. I ended up watching. That was my one game. I watched a little bit of USC, Washington State.
Yeah,
but the main game I watched on Saturday with my roommates was Michigan Indiana. My goodness, it took them a while to figure out how to run against Indiana. Like, obviously, we can joke about the blocked field goal, but like in reality, goodness, throwing, they were great. They're great in the air, as you would expect Michigan to be. But my goodness, they couldn't. It was tough. I mean, Michigan really pulled away at the last 10 minutes maybe, but I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to see my first Michigan loss this season? I'm not confident in them. They're shaken, and obviously, Harbaugh's a better coach than that. Like, I'm not as confident. Is it? Are they at Penn State?
It's at Michigan.
No.
Oh, it's at Michigan.
Michigan's
Okay.
home.
Oh gosh.
You're right, Josh. That would change things. I will say, to
You know
Indiana's
what?
credit, because
I'll take that.
What'd you say, Josh?
I was gonna say Michigan's home. I'll take basically the home field advantage on that.
Yeah, sure. I will say I was able to cover Indiana in person earlier this season, and they're a weird team to try to figure out. They have been decent against the run and pretty poor against the pass. So that was fitting. I was a little concerned. Like, you do have Blake Corum, who I know ended up with a good stat line overall, but you're right. It took them some time to kick it into gear. They were on the road last week, to be fair. And I believe that may have been their, no, I take that back. They were at Iowa previously. So, and
Mike Hart also had
you're right. That's
seizure
yeah.
on the
That's
sideline
fair.
too.
That shook
I
them.
don't
That really
think-
shook them.
Right. I think like most of the time, that's why you can't just look at a box score sometimes though with that, where it's just like, that reasonably would have shaken your team up. And then they came out in the second half and were more put together.
Absolutely,
It still shouldn't have been that close, but I get that a little bit more. I think the key here really is, McCarthy against the Penn State secondary. If Penn State's going to win, it's going to be the Penn State secondary and linebacker unit confusing the young quarterback, changing up pre-snap, post-snap, seeing if they can't, and Manny Diaz and that defense can't disguise it. Penn State's very good at being able to do that. I think if the Nittany Lions were at home, I honestly might pick them. McCarthy getting to be at home, though, and getting that comfort. Michigan has very good wide receivers. It's probably the best wide receiver unit Harbaugh's had since he's been in Ann Arbor. It's really about that Penn State secondary against McCarthy and the wide receivers. I think that'll determine the game, because the one thing Michigan hasn't been able to do is connect long ball down the field. Really struggled with McCarthy's accuracy down the field. He hasn't been turning it over yet. But with young quarterbacks, sometimes when those turnovers rain, they pour. So I think that is your biggest matchup to look at. Penn State will get theirs on offense enough. I think turnovers are the main thing that would sink Michigan, specifically trying to throw the ball downfield. Because they'll have to connect on a few of those shots in this game. Penn State's not just going to let Blake Corum run wild. So he's going to get his one-on-one matchups in the secondary. So we're going to learn a lot about McCarthy and his growth in this game.
Yeah.
But I like Michigan to win.
Yeah, I do too. I'm with you guys. I think the home field, if it's in Penn State, I think I pick Penn State. Should be fascinating and should really kind of highlight who's real in the Big Ten East and who's not pretty quickly. And against whoever is going to come out of the Big Ten West, Nebraska apparently is good now. So more on that later, Johnny. I know you've got us covered with some Nebraska news that we didn't know we needed. All right, the last game I want to, for sake of time, probably the last game I want to touch on is USC at Utah. I know, or Oklahoma State TCU. We should probably mention either of those two games. Thoughts on either of those games? I'm putting USC on major upset alert. I say upset alert. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the line. I know Utah, there's a possibility that they could be favored at home just because of how well they play at home. It's going to be an emotional. Okay, thanks, Johnny. It's going to be an emotional game for Utah, just with kind of they're honoring a couple of teammates that have passed away suddenly in the last couple years. More on those stories online and available if you want to learn more about that. And we'll be talking about that a little bit more next week. A really good interview we've got next week, so make sure you're following us on whatever platform you're watching or listening to for that. But I'm putting USC on upset alert. I think Utah. There's two ways some of these games can go. If you have a really emotional game, you can have all this emotion build up to the pregame, and then the game time comes, and you're either over emotional or you kind of fall flat. I don't think that's going to be the case for Utah. I think we're going to see USC go down. I think USC loses on Saturday. And I know they look good. I mean, they figured things out against a tough Washington State team. I know Utah didn't particularly have a great game against UCLA. That defense gave up 40-plus points for the first time really since the Rose Bowl. But before that, that just does not happen to this defense a whole lot. UCLA is also good. I'd just point that out too. But I really like USC to lose to Utah. And the Oklahoma State TCU game's fascinating. Who knew TCU would be undefeated at this point? Max Duggan, incredible.
Heisman candidate.
Yeah.
Love it. When it comes USC, Utah, everybody's going to see that Utah has the two losses already. Utah fell to UCLA. The key in both of their losses so far this year is Utah falling behind early. That's a key to this game. USC's biggest weakness on defense is the run stopping game. So a big key here is really who takes the lead early. USC's much better in the pass defense and pass rush, and that's how they create turnovers. They're leading the FBS in a plus 14 turnover differential.
Wow.
That is massive. So you have a bad defense, but you can create some havoc and some turnovers. Huge. Turnovers are also a little random, though, at the same time. I have a hard time believing that continues into this game. Utah protects the ball. I think the Utes win at home, too. I think it'll be a little bit surprising for everybody. Just USC's look good, but I thought Utah would win this game coming into the season. I think they win it now, too. On the road, not first true road test because of Corvallis for USC, but I like the Utes to figure it out. Cam Rising, emotional game. They're just a different team at home as well. Both losses have been on the road. They won't turn it over, especially if Utah gets an early lead and USC is forced to throw it a ton and get away from Travis Dye. Be careful here. I think this could be where they fall apart. And I think the Cowboys in Oklahoma State are actually severely underrated. I know they haven't been blowing teams out, but that deep Big 12 beating Texas Tech is far more impressive than Ohio State beating Michigan State. I'm a Buckeye fan. It's not even remotely close, even though the records are quite similar. I give Oklahoma State a ton of credit for being able to pull out on the road, beat Baylor, and be able to finish off Texas Tech last week. I think they deserve a lot of credit. I think they're really good. This might be a first to 50 game.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun, but I'd take Spencer Sanders and Oklahoma State in that one.
I'm tempted to take TCU. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I watched Oklahoma State. Now, granted, they were playing Baylor, but I watched them play against Baylor, and Baylor's not a bad team at all. But my goodness, they looked sharp. They looked energetic. It's hard. I think the line's 4.5 in Oklahoma State's favor. They're away. TCU can do some weird things. I think I'm taking Oklahoma State on this one.
All right. Yeah. I'm with you, Josh. I think the potential there is certainly for Oklahoma State to run the table. I don't think that's
right
out of the question. This is a big time test. We'll see, and they still have some really good opponents on their schedule. Even though Oklahoma seems to be bad, they still play in Bedlam. They still play Texas. They still play. I'm probably missing a couple.
Don't forget Kansas.
Yeah, Kansas. Thank you. Yep. Still play Kansas State too. Right?
Yeah. Remember us in August going, hey, watch out for Kansas. Everyone in the Big 12.
Yep. Amazing. All right. Well, guys, thanks for that college football discussion. I am super excited for this week. I've already got the white chicken chili recipe ready. It's gonna be a good Saturday. So looking forward to that. All right. There's also plenty of other things happening. It is time to take you to our. Oh, you know what? I was about to take us to the picks of the week. Real quick, let me give you a 60-second rant on something the NCAA is doing poorly. Shocker. James Madison.
Oh, weird. They're doing something bad?
Oh, yeah, Josh. Just can't believe it. Unbelievable. Just weird. Shocking turn of events. If you are not following the James Madison Dukes, I'll forgive you for now because they are an FBS team as recently as this season, but they're ranked now in the AP Top 25. Johnny, do you have them ranked in the actual poll that people should care about?
I do have them ranked.
Excellent.
I have them ranked 23rd.
So excellent.
Give them a little bit more credit than that. But
yes.
I was happy to see the AP rank the Dukes. That was good.
They deserve it. They're 5-0. Yeah. This is their first time in the FBS. They're ranked. It's all a great feel-good story, and everyone lived happily ever after, right? Wrong, because the NCAA has a rule for a team like James Madison, who is making a transition to the FBS, which stands for the Football Bowl Subdivision. Formerly, it was Division 1A. Making a transition to that division from the FCS, or Division 1AA, that used to be called. They basically have a 2-year period where you are not eligible for your conference's championship. You are not eligible for the postseason, which includes a bowl game. Now, the idea is that it's stopping a team like, I don't know, let's say North Dakota State. This maybe it's not the best example, but just work with me here. Let's say North Dakota State has this insane recruiting class. They've got everything working for them, and they're like, hey, we could do some damage up in the FBS. Let's go up there and see if we can make a crazy run, get to a New Year's Six, get to a playoff. Let's just try to figure it out. And we'll jump up there. we'll see how it goes. And then after a couple years, those recruits will move on. We'll jump back to the FCS. Basically, the rule is so that teams don't jump back and forth. I understand the NCAA's need for that not to happen. You do need some stability within the divisions. But schedules are made like 10 years in advance. It's not so simple to just say, oh, we're jumping up to the FBS. FBS schools, hey, quick, can we get 12 teams to schedule us real fast? That doesn't really happen. So for a variety of different reasons, this rule is bad, but specifically because it applies to James Madison. James Madison is 5-0 and is not currently bowl eligible or eligible for the Sun Belt Championship, which by all indications, some of the teams that they've beaten already, they are well on their way to winning the East Division. Now, there's a waiver process that James Madison can go through. The NCAA, historically, as you're probably well aware, tends to drag their feet through these kind of things. So I, along with many other people, are worried that James Madison's going to get left out. NCAA, if you're hearing this, please do the right thing. This rule, while it has potentially good intentions, I at least see the direction you're coming from, is misapplied horribly to James Madison and is punishing them for being one of the best teams in college football. So there's my rant to the NCAA. Be better. Free James Madison. That's going to, for non-college football fans, that's got to be a weird sentence, but you know what I mean. So
they're going to think there's a new like Hamilton style play or something.
Yes. Yes, indeed. So anyways, free James Madison. That's my rant. Thank you for listening to that. We'll have a petition out, I'm sure, at some point. Okay. Now it's time for our picks of the week and our current scoreboard. If you're new, by the way, we do this every week where we make picks, we assign points, and we keep standings that we've kept through from episode 1. Here we are in episode 83, and the scoreboard reads myself with 44 points, Josh with 41, Jonny with 38. Guys, I think this might be the biggest lead anybody has had through 83 episodes. I have just been on a hot streak. I continued it because last week I told you that the Nashville Predators were going to take both games of the series in Prague, the NHL opening series against the San Jose Sharks, and they did. They had a come-behind win in Game 2. So the Predators opened the NHL season with 4 points, and I added another point to my collection. So we're going to continue our picks of the week. This week we gave you our Tennessee-Alabama picks, but the MLB playoffs are happening right now. If you follow us on Instagram, you should. We kind of gave a bracket out there for who we thought or which teams we thought were going to win the Major League Baseball playoffs. So I said the Los Angeles Dodgers were going to beat the Houston Astros. Jonny said the same thing. In fact, I promise we made our bracket separately. They were the exact same brackets. I don't know how we keep doing stuff like this, but anyways. And then Josh, you had a little bit different. You had the Dodgers over the New York Yankees, if I'm remembering that correctly.
I do. I'm trying to find what I sent you.
Yeah, so
I should have made it a visual.
Yeah, so obviously, no, you're good. We did make those predictions before the wild card round. So for the purpose of the podcast picks, our picks of the week, I will let you guys abridge your World Series predictions if you would like. Now, we all have teams in the World Series that we're not playing this weekend. So I'm keeping mine the same. I'm still going with the Dodgers over the Astros. Jonny, are you keeping your picks the same?
I actually had Dodgers Yankees.
Oh, you had Dodgers Yankees.
I will.
Okay.
And I'll keep that. And we made these picks. We did make the original ones at least before.
Yes.
Before the playoffs began.
We did.
With that, I got. What did I get? I got the Guardians right, Seattle right, whiffed on St. Louis, and whiffed on the Mets.
Don't worry, they also whiffed on themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're batting 500. Much better in the AL than the NL, at least on my side of things.
Yeah,
but
same, likewise.
Who you got, Josh?
Wait, say that again?
Who you got?
Yeah, so I was looking at my list, and I make my bracket predictions the same way I make my March Madness predictions. But just going with, you know what? It'd be cool to see this team do it. And I do like the idea. Man, it fits really well. I love the idea of the Yankees making it to the World Series and just eating it. So just based on the giggles alone, I have Dodgers over Yankees in 6.
Okay.
And for the
College
MLS Cup,
football fans are cheering for Cleveland in that series. The
oh, of
Yankees made
course.
a lot of enemies with their
Hmm.
live break-ins.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Okay,
Yeah.
and that takes us to another tournament that is also starting, and that is the Major League Soccer tournament. So, Johnny, this is potentially an opportunity for you to gain some points here. And I should also clarify too, when we make these kind of long tournament predictions, if you get a World Series team correct, that is a point. If you get the champion correct, that is an additional point. So, not now, but there's a lot of points up for grabs here in a few weeks. So that takes us to Major League Soccer. Johnny, who are you taking in the MLS Cup?
MLS is honestly a lot closer to hockey than it comes to like baseball or football, where you will get a hot team at the right time who's a 4, 5, even 6 seed, and they'll run all the way to the MLS Cup title, especially if they get the right matchup. I'm not going anything crazy though. Really hard to predict those teams. The East was so crowded this year. I will go with Montreal, the 2 seed, actually. I just love their side of the bracket a little bit more. I like their way of getting out of there. And I can't pick Cincinnati based on my morals. And then I will be picking LAFC out of the West. They are the best team. My main concern is just team chemistry. They added so much talent, but they added it a lot during the transfer window in season. And so can they, in time, get Gareth Bale and all of these guys just in the flow of the team and figure out that chemistry? They looked a lot better towards the end of the season. Looked like they were figuring it out. I'll go with the most talented team in LAFC taking out Montreal in the final. But honestly, in the East, it could be just about anyone hopping out of there.
Yeah, I went with the Philadelphia Union over the LAFC. I originally had the LAFC, and then it felt like I was picking the Yankees to win it all. You know, it kind of had that vibe, which might happen, and maybe that was the pick I should make, but my heart was like, nah, do something a little bit more fun. So by fun, I'm taking both 1 seeds out of the East and West. So is that really that fun? Probably not. It would have been more fun if I picked like a 6 seed, but I'm picking the Union over LAFC. Have I watched either of those teams play? No, actually, I think I did watch Philadelphia play 1 game, but otherwise, no. So that's my pretty uneducated guess this week.
Mm-hmm. Montreal. French words are kind of cool right now.
Mm-hmm.
I like those. So I'll take Montreal over LA.
Okay.
I'll put that in.
Opposite.
That sounds fun.
Love it.
Sounds fun to me.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And as always.
Oh, that's what you. Oh, I also did not realize you did that. Yes.
That's okay.
I've been looking at brackets. I've been looking at brackets for the past 5 minutes going, oh crap, I got to remember what these teams are.
Honestly though, like really, truly what I said, like if you haven't watched the MLS before, it's not quite NHL, but it's very much with the single elimination game style that we have, that Americanized soccer rather than playing 2 legs. It really is not necessarily the best team goes through.
Johnny, I would hope every soccer player on there has 2 legs.
Got him.
Oh,
got him.
Oof.
Nailed the joke.
But don't be surprised if you get a hot team. Even Orlando City surviving and beating Columbus late, like they could take out Montreal in the first round. So there's a lot of different options that could come through in the East. The West, I think, is almost Austin or LAFC. If it's not one of those two, I'd be pretty stunned.
Yeah, should be good, and that's a perfect warm up for the World Cup, which I believe is 6 weeks away from today. I think, or maybe I think so. 6. So that's very exciting. So enjoy some good soccer leading into some even better soccer. That's very very fun, guys. I know the next part of the show that we usually do is called What We're Following, and it's our favorite segment. And, it's time to get a little bit more serious this episode because I think the 3 of us have each stumbled upon a grave conspiracy that must be described to the people to properly warn you. So yes. I'll start with my conspiracy and we can just kind of go around the room. This Tennessee story, Tennessee football being ranked as high as number 6 in the AP poll, looking ahead to their game against Alabama. It's a great story, and I'm excited for Volunteers fans who have had lots of disappointment. And are they on the precipice of winning, finally beating Alabama for the first time in 16 years? Maybe. But at what cost? At what cost have they done this? Unfortunately, it appears that Tennessee cheated in their game against LSU. If you watched the very first play, Tennessee kicks it off to LSU. LSU promptly fumbles it right into the hands of Tennessee, who scored a touchdown and never looked back, winning, I believe, with a final score of 40-13. Impressive win at Baton Rouge. However, that muffed kickoff was not what it appeared. There is a member of Reddit whose nickname is The Boat. He's a Duke fan. He's been a member of this subreddit since October of 2008. He's breaking news to us today here, folks. Tennessee potentially used an EPMP on opening kickoff. And what, you may ask, is an EPMP? Well, that happens to be an electrophysiomagnetic pulse. It's a low-intensity burst of magnetic field at a frequency designed to scramble sensory electrons and disrupt the brain's electrocurrents. What happens when an EPMP goes off? Well, the result is an instantaneous and temporary loss of motor strength and muscle control. So we're presented this information. We're given a picture that is just couldn't be blurrier, with a red circle pointing to just a huddle of coaches. That I think we're just under the assumption then that clearly the coaches were huddled around the EPMP so that they could turn it on right as the LSU player is supposed to receive the kick. He fumbles because of said loss of, or the instantaneous and temporary loss of motor strength and muscle control, lands in the lap of Tennessee, and they enjoy that touchdown, giving them the momentum needed to beat down an LSU team. So look, this Tennessee story is great, but clearly The Boat, this Duke fan, who apparently also enjoys Tim McGraw country music, guys, he's posted 150,190 times. So this guy clearly knows what he's talking about. This is a conspiracy at the highest level. Tennessee using their engineering school to cheat. And look, I understand it's been some years of real bottom football. They lost to Georgia State. They had one of the most embarrassing coaching searches in history. Mm-hmm. I understand they had to find a way to get there. Some schools are turning to NIL. Some schools are turning to hiring Mel Tucker for $90 million. Tennessee's like, nope, we're going to use our engineers to cheat. So I don't know what to tell you, Volunteers fans. Like, I'm happy for your success, but clearly it's all a sham. So that's the conspiracy.
They have to spoil it before they play Alabama.
So sad.
I know.
They couldn't have waited a week.
Yeah. And you know what? If there's any kind of weird fumble, if Alabama muffs anything, this game is. And now I credit Tennessee, by the way, too, for somehow getting this EPMP to the away sideline and still utilizing it. Just imagine how much easier it's going to be at home. That thing's probably been sitting there for weeks. It's going to be so easy. So if Alabama muffs anything, you've been told now. I've warned you. It's not real. The players can't help it. They've been induced with instantaneous and temporary loss of motor strength and muscle control. It's not their fault. I
mean, anyone would succumb to that.
Yeah.
So if Milroe, who fumbled twice against A&M, almost unprompted fumbles it, they're going to be blaming the E&M instead of his poor ball security.
Correct. Well, here's the thing too. As in most sports, as in most scandals, we know the Houston Astros cheated, right? But the New York Yankees also cheated. The Boston Red Sox also cheated. The Astros were just the dumb ones that got caught.
Listen,
you have to
do you think Tennessee is not the first? Do you think their science department is the first one to come up with this?
Correct. There's got to be better.
I'm not saying Tennessee is dumb.
No, not at all. But there's got to be some better engineering programs out there. Absolutely. That have to be utilizing this technology. Tennessee's not the first. They were just dumb enough to get caught.
Now to be fair, if it did start with Tennessee, that's the perfect crime. No one's suspecting them of engineering.
Correct.
Engineering this marvel. Goodness. Yeah. Because up until this year, they've been probably one of the most mid SEC teams.
Yeah. Average wise, I'd say that's pretty fair. Here's the other thing too. The upvotes, there's 44 upvotes, there's 28 downvotes. Based on that alone, it looks like Tennessee is desperately trying to downvote this post so people don't see it. But thankfully, we caught it for you so that
Yeah, hey, everyone.
we can share this information.
Everyone gets to be a volunteer tonight. Go and false flag that post. And for I don't know, don't lie, but like just block and reports.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure that this gets hidden like it should be. In Tennessee, we can leak this scandal in the postseason. We do not leak it mid-season.
Correct. Yeah.
That's our rule, guys.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's conspiracy number 1. Jonny, over to you for conspiracy number 2.
Maybe ENNPs have been used against Nebraska for the last few years under Scott Frost. Who knows? But what my conspiracy this week that I'm following is, because let's be honest, whether I share it or not, there's some conspiracy that I'm buying into every single week of my life. This week, what I'm following is the curse of Scott Frost. And you're like, Scott Frost has been fired for 3 weeks, Jonny. Get off of it. Well, what if I told you that every team that has beaten Nebraska this year is a combined 1-11? Let me repeat that. 1-11. These teams include Northwestern over in Ireland. This includes Georgia Southern, who has the lone victory of these 3 teams, and Oklahoma, since thrashing Nebraska, has won a game. Northwestern has not won a game. It is a curse. And even though Scott Frost was fired right before the Oklahoma game, we're not going to mention that part. Nebraska's won their last 2 games. So, curse of Scott Frost, perhaps, since his firing. Anybody who beat Nebraska during his tenure, watch out. Watch out. Oklahoma, we already talked about Oklahoma. We get this anymore. They might not win another game. They'll win it. I don't know, though. Curse.
Yep.
Northwestern looks horrendous in the Big Ten West, which is impossible, honestly, to not do anything in the Big Ten West this year. They are looking just atrocious. And then Georgia Southern, they have that lone win. They were, I believe, unbeaten when they beat Nebraska and have fallen apart. They looked like they might be, we had that week where we were talking about how great the Sun Belt is, and they still are great, mind you. But they have fallen off a cliff a little bit here too. So, and it's not even just these teams are losing, they're getting crushed.
Yeah.
Northwestern is not even close to beating any of these teams. Oklahoma, we talked about that, just getting drubbed by Texas. They were getting killed by TCU the week before. Like, they're getting just crushed. It's hilarious. It's awesome. Apparently, somehow, by firing Scott Frost, Nebraska has passed that terrible fortune on to those teams. I do not know how they did it. Perhaps some sort of hex or witch doctor they found in the cornfields.
Probably.
But they've done it, dang it. And Northwestern now is in play for that awful Big Ten West that now has the ACC Coastal spirit within them. So that is, mine's a lot more fun, unless you're a Northwestern, Georgia Southern, or Oklahoma fan.
Man. Well, if you thought Scandal was going to end with Jonny, you're wrong. Guys,
Welcome
let me
to
tell you,
Chess Heads.
first off, welcome to Chess Heads. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to Chess Heads, a show within a show, a podcast within a podcast, a segment within a segment, profiling the latest and greatest within non-standard sports. Quick update for all you chess heads, the OG chess heads. No updates yet for both of our scandals that are already ongoing. Both the International Chess Regulatory Board and the Fish Regulatory Board. The fishing, not the spokesperson for the fish, but that would be insane. Would be fun though. Both are still in ongoing investigations. I'm going to take that one again. Both regulatory boards are taking. Both investigations are still underway, so we have no definitive answers onto whether or not cheating actually happens in either the chess tournament or the fishing tournament. But I will keep you guys updated with stuff that I know. But guys, this week is a much more important week, especially for all of you nature lovers. Yes, it has been Fat Bear Week here at
yes.
Chesshead, and it is our favorite time of year. For those of you who don't know, bears chunk up during the summer. That way, they can enter into periods of very low activity during the winter. They do not sleep all winter. That is a misconception. They do not just sleep for the winter for 4 months straight, but they are at a period of much lower activity generally. But the where are they doing this? The Katamai? I see. I butchered it last year, and I'm going to butcher it again this year, which is great.
Is it in Alaska or something?
It is. Yeah. Katmai. Yeah. Katmai. I'm probably butchering it in Alaska. Hosts Fat Bear Week for the past probably at least 10 years, and you basically vote on the biggest boy, honestly. And it's been great. Semifinals. The final semifinal is today. Looks like bear number 901. Some of them have names, some of them don't. 901. Sometimes, 901's new. 901 is new this year. So they've not had time to name this one. Let me double check. I'm gonna check her profile real quick. Yeah, first identified in 2018. She is not one yet. But she's really good at chunking. Yeah, no nickname yet for 901. But it looks like 901 is going to beat Grazer today. That's the final semifinal. Yesterday, 747, bear number 747, or as he's affectionately known as Jumbo Jet, did defeat Holly. So it looks like your final tomorrow is going to be 901 versus Jumbo Jet.
Amazing.
And so, but here's the scandal, guys. Jumbo Jet won back in 2020. However, the most prolific winner in the Fat Bear Week history is a bear named hold on. Where is he? 480. 480 is the most prolific winner, otherwise known as Otis. Otis the bear has won.
I remember that name.
Yeah, he was the inaugural victor in 2014, and then he won in 2016, 2017, and then he was our winner last year in 2021. Reports this week on my TikTok, breaking news, Otis conceded. Earlier, he went into hibernation early.
Oh.
Here's the thing, he was a shoo-in. He was chunking up just like the rest of them. He was doing great. At the very least, top 3 contender. And especially going up against, let's see, who would he have gone up against? I have the bracket right here in front of me. 480 would have gone up against 128. He would have gone up against Grazer, and he totally had the chunk on Grazer. So, yeah, absolutely. You could have seen an Otis versus 747 matchup in the finals, which is, by the way, happening tomorrow. I believe voting starts at noon Pacific. So just go to go to explore.org/fatbearweek, and you'll be able to vote there. But guys, Otis bowed out early, kind of like Magnus Carlsen bowing out early at the St. Louis Chess Championship.
I was going to say kind of like Aroldis Chapman, but
kind of like Aroldis Chapman.
You're thinking that Otis suspected some cheating.
Otis
going on from the other bears. It wasn't about that.
Well, and it's specifically against, he would have been going against 480, him going against 128. And I got to double check and see 128's history. She has not won yet, obviously. Grazer, I'm reading straight from the website, guys. Grazer is a particularly defensive mother bear. She often preeminently confronts and attacks much larger bears, even large and dominant adult males, to ensure her cubs are safe, which is great. Her cubs benefit from her mother's boldness in face of danger and competition. Could that competitive spirit have driven her to bulk up and maybe start? I don't know the regulatory board at this point. Is she stealing from more garbage cans than she's allotted? Is she making trips to the garbage bin at the local McDonald's? Like, can she be bulking up in ways that have not been approved? I mean, is she juicing? I don't know how Bears would do that. And so what we're looking at now is tomorrow, guys, go vote. Well, tomorrow. By the time you listen to this, it is all over. But
Sad. But not if you're listening on
what?
YouTube.
If you're listening on YouTube, again, this is why you listen to us on YouTube. You can vote tomorrow. Vote for the biggest. Vote for. No, I shouldn't have to tell you this. You should already be following Fat Bear Week.
True.
But so this side of the apartment is where the medical district is, and so there's just 3 or 4 of those a day. I mean, I'm staring at Texas A&M's dentistry school. I'm staring at Baylor's hospital, and then there's another one down the road. So normally it doesn't. Normally people don't break their bones right at 7 o'clock, but it's always possible. So guys, go if you're watching us on YouTube, go vote tomorrow. Vote for either 747. Vote for that. Vote for Jumbo Jet. I mean, guys, go look at him. Guy's thick. Or if you want to vote for the new upstart, you can go vote for 901. I will say 747's put in the work in the off season, and I'm ready for this Jumbo Jet to go soar. Straight to bed for him to sleep. But yeah, big news out of Bear World. We haven't been able. I mean, he's hibernating right now. We cannot reach Otis until probably April or May. So I don't know when his sleeping season ends, but my goodness, it's gonna be a really hard off season. As we try and figure out what happens. So I might give you another Fat Bear Week update in like April or June.
Amazing.
April, May, or June. Just sit tight, chest heads, and I got you covered.
There's arguably no off season in Fat Bear Week, so
that is true, and I think that's such a true point, and it's just a really good point to make. Like, Jumbo Jet, he's put in such good work, such good numbers, and because it's not just about the bulk. Because if you just always stay fat, then what's that even matter? Right. It's the transition. I mean, like, and which is again can be part of scandal. You look at Grazer's before picture. Grazer in like July 24th versus Grazer September 10th. She's got a big difference, and so it's like it's almost too much.
Is there a scenario where that bear has been eating the fish that had weights in them? Like, is this all interconnected?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so part of what I want to do, and I didn't realize this, the guys who had cheated to win that walleye championship up in Lake Erie.
Yep.
They've had a string of victories going back for quite a few years. I'll have to check. There's got to be fishing tournaments in Alaska. There's got to be. I'll see if they won up there. See what they did, because there's a chance that Otis realized that that Grazer was in fact eating the heavy fish.
It's got to be it for sure.
Man.
Yep.
That's crazy. What a world we live in, guys.
Indeed.
Nothing's safe.
Indeed it is. Nothing's safe from a good conspiracy. All right, I think that finally wraps us up here on episode 83. Just want to say, as always, thank you for listening. It means a lot, or watching on YouTube, or however you are supporting and taking this podcast. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was a lot of fun. I am just absolutely looking forward to some of these games on Saturday. As we mentioned a little bit here and there as well, the NFL is just kind of absolute chaos right now. So it's just a great sports time. So I hope you're enjoying it. Make sure you follow us on social media for more. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on all of the places. And check us out on YouTube as well. We've got a lot more content coming out there in the coming weeks. And as I mentioned, we've got a special interview on the way here in the next week or two. So make sure you're following us so you don't miss that. It's going to be good. It's one of our favorite guests returning to the podcast. So thrilled for that. So make sure you don't miss that. And that's where we'll talk to you guys next week. So I hope you guys have a good week. We'll talk to you next time. And for those on YouTube, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Appreciate it. We are For those on YouTube, though, we're not finished with the stream. Johnny and I are recording our football show next. So if you want more college football, that's coming up here in just a few minutes. So we're gonna make some picks, talk Heisman, talk some best bets, a little bit of everything there. So if you're just jumping on, thanks for doing that. By the way, if you are watching the stream, if you don't mind hitting that like button, it's free and it helps us out a bunch. So appreciate if you would do that for us. All right, I'm pulling up.
Hang out so you can see how terrible my bets are and how much money I'd be, and how the state of Ohio waiting till January saved me vast amounts of money.
Yeah, I gotta get that pulled up. We'll see what the record is. I know it was another rough week.
It is really bad. Of course, the one game I took off was the best one that I should. It is. It's been a rough stretch for me picking in general.
It has. You really cold streak for sure. Yeah.
I haven't switched my Kansas State to Iowa State pick that would have gotten me actually some points on you this week because we tied again.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have gotten some points back on you, but I switched it at the last minute. And it looked like it was a good pick for a while.
It did.
What a disappointment. I will never, ever pick Iowa State again in football. It's over.
Yeah.
It is over officially. And I'm also never picking a game that involves a service academy either.
I tried to warn you about that one. I will say I did try to warn you about that. Like Air Force again.
You did. I don't know what happened. I mean, like that game really this week, was it? I think it was Navy I picked this week. Was it Navy or was it Air Force? I don't know.
I think you picked Air Force, but I was very impressed by Navy. Navy put up like 50 plus points for their third win of the year.
Yeah, I think that might have been it.
Good for Navy.
Was it Navy?
Because that's been
that's
like ever since 2020, where basically they weren't allowed to tackle and then played BYU and got beat 51-0, and it was like, oh my. Mm-hmm. It's been a rough road. I was very impressed by Navy this week.
Aaron, I picked both. I picked Tulsa to cover against Navy. They lost by. And I picked Air Force to cover against Utah State, and they lost by 7.
Wow.
So I just Navy had been really rough this season again.
Yeah.
So I was just expecting it to continue, but well.
Yeah. Well, Josh, thanks for recording.
Yeah, of course. That was fun.
Yeah. Appreciate it. And we'll connect at some point this week too, just to chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. Have a good night, guys.
All right. Appreciate it, man.
Bye, Josh.
Have a good one.
Yeah. You too.
Aaron, give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, you're good. Chat, I'm turning up Johnny's audio too, just so you know. I know he's a little bit quieter on your end. That should be good. I'll throw some music on too while we're waiting. Yeah, we're for those that are new to the stream, first of all, welcome. We are about to start our what we call Football Mondays. It's kind of just our football show that we walk through more than we did on just the podcast that we just recorded. Walk through what's going on the week in college football. We'll make our picks. We kind of go through ESPN's College Pick'em. Right now, Johnny and I have a wager. Whoever's got the least points of the two of us at the end of the whole season has to eat mayonnaise ice cream, which just sounds horrible. So I'm hoping I don't lose that because that would be very sad. I would be very sad. I don't know. Do you guys say, is mayonnaise ice cream, is that worse than mayonnaise in your coffee? I actually think mayonnaise in your coffee might be worse. The classic Will Levis. Anyways, we're making those picks. Johnny will make, as he said, his best bets. We've got our top 25 poll. We've got our Heisman standing. So if any of that's interesting to you, we are about to get that underway here in just a moment. But yeah, so that's kind of what's going on there. And as we mentioned on the podcast, a really exciting interview coming up next week. So don't want to miss that. Very college football related too. There's one note that I didn't have a chance to talk about in the podcast, but I think it's worth mentioning now because we're talking about USC Utah, that game, but UCLA winning again, 6-0. clearly a Pac-12 contender, a Pac-12 conference that seems, at least right now, wide open. Here's the active win streaks in college football. Clemson's got a 12-game win streak. That's the longest. The second longest is UCLA with 9. They're tied with Coastal Carolina that also has 9, so good for the Chanticleers. I believe they're seeing some top 25 love now, which is good. And deserved, I might add. And after that, you've got Georgia with 8, Ohio State with 7, Alabama with 6, Michigan 6. That's your longest active win streaks in college football. UCLA tied with Coastal Carolina for the second longest streak in college football. That's pretty wild. Good for the Bruins. They've had a great start to this year with some of their key games still upcoming. So
DTR certainly belongs in the Heisman.
Oh yeah,
in that conversation for sure. If he's not on your list, you're doing it wrong. So.
By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, let me know if I tried to balance audio a little bit better. I know Jonny was a little bit quieter, but I think it should be better now. So, let me know. And somehow we're also wearing basically the same shirt, so that's fun.
Happens sometimes.
It does. It does. All right. Well, Jonny, if you're ready, we can get into it.
Ready to go.
All right. Hey, welcome to Football Mondays. It's good to have you here. We're on YouTube, as always, where you can watch this show and past shows as well. But yeah, wow, what a week of college football we've got ahead. Not that this week was bad. I just think that every week, or every game you kind of highlighted from this week ended up being a blowout. So we didn't have a lot of drama until you got to kind of the night games where you had Alabama, Texas A&M. You had Florida State, NC State was just a fascinating game and potentially one of the worst decisions I've ever seen in the football field. Florida State with a chance to win at the end and just quite literally threw the chance away. But that sets us up for now what is an awesome week. We've got some really, really good matchups. And as always, we'll kind of walk you through our picks, potentially our Heisman standings, our best bets, kind of all the usual things we do on this show. But Jonny, I kind of want to start with kind of the usual opening question. We are essentially at the midpoint of college football. Is there any key takeaways that now that we kind of have one half of football done, looking ahead to the second half, is there any big themes or maybe just themes you saw from last week or anything related to that at all?
I think the story is the story of the transfer portal so far this season, if you're really thinking it through. I would say, I guess I would put it twofold: transfer portal / super seniors. I mean, Hendon Hooker and DTR come to mind. Super seniors. You have these guys that because you got that 1 year waiver with COVID, and if you're a grad school student, that's 6 years of playing football. And if you get any other additional waiver, maybe it's even 7, especially at those smaller schools. You're seeing that for sure. And so you have super experienced quarterbacks in Hendon Hooker and DTR, and that's why those guys are playing so well. You saw their flashes early on in their careers, but they've really come on this season and really last season. Towards the end, both of them were really picking up steam. And so you're seeing that come out, but you're seeing the transfer portal just gut Oklahoma and revitalize USC in an instant. You're seeing it give unrealistic expectations to Michigan State, who just hit the jackpot first year by really utilizing that transfer portal. And you see that's not sustainable on a long-term sense. You know, it might be able to plug some holes. It's a Band-Aid, but you got to be able to recruit your own guys still. And so I think that the story of that super senior transfer, I think, is really the big story of this year. Near misses would probably be another one. Georgia and Alabama, of course, come to mind immediately. There, Clemson has their near miss with Wake Forest. That one certainly counts as well. I guess Michigan really hasn't had necessarily a near miss. They've had some battles, and we'll leave the Buckeyes out of that conversation. But for the most part, most contenders have had real near misses so far this season. I think that's why we're so excited about this week. There's no more hiding. These aren't really upsets in the traditional way if you're just looking at rankings. They're very closely ranked. We got a ton of ranked matchups. We got heavyweight battles this week. So someone's going down of significance this week. We're going to know a lot about who's going to the playoff, who's winning divisions and conference titles after this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, by factor of just having 2 top 10 matchups, you're going to get 2 top 10 losers. And maybe if USC loses, then I mean, yeah, this seems like the second half of the season could start off with a bang just in terms of the chaos. And I think that's my big takeaway. Last time at this year, we had a podcast episode that I think said something along the lines of like, it's Alabama and Georgia's world and we're just all living in it. That ended up being true. And that's how we felt kind of halfway through. You kind of looked at those 2 teams and thought, wow, is anyone even going to get close? And yeah, Texas A&M beat Alabama, but outside of that kind of fluke game, no one really touched those teams. I'm not saying that at all. Now, that could still be true, to be fair. If Alabama gets Bryce Young back healthy, they somehow get past Tennessee, they figure some things out. Georgia gets Stetson Bennett back healthy. He looked banged up in the Missouri game. Like, as good as Stetson Bennett looked early in the season, and you thought, in that first game especially, Georgia just killing Oregon like 49-0, you thought Stetson Bennett 3 weeks in, like, oh my, he's a legitimate Heisman contender. He's regressed a little bit, not really by fault of his own. I think he's just not 100% healthy. Georgia had a scare against Missouri. I think my biggest takeaway from the first half is that, number one, I don't know anything. I think that's my biggest takeaway. The Big 12 chaos, that kind of just shows you that, wow, that's what makes college football so great, obviously, but it's so wide open. Maybe in the grand scheme of things, and this is probably true, if I had to give you a top 4 playoff right now, it would be Alabama, it would be Georgia, it'd be Ohio State, it'd be Clemson. And maybe that's what it ends up being, and then we have the same 4 teams. And that's just the way college football is right now. But we're so wide open in the Big 12, I have no clue who's going to win that. After this week, I'd say maybe it's Texas. I look at the Pac-12. I have no clue who's going to win that. Maybe USC handles business on the road in a very tough environment against Utah, and then that will become a little bit more clear. But for the meantime, I have no idea. No idea who's going to win the ACC Coastal. No idea who's going to win the Big Ten West. There's going to be a team that wins the Big Ten West eventually, and I'll be like, are we sure? Really? Did they actually clinch? Is there some way that, like, I won't believe it until I see one of those teams in Indianapolis. But it's so wide open. I think there's so many storylines to follow. It's what makes college football so great that even if we get those 4 teams of the Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State, that the process to get there is still going to be absolutely amazing. And some of that is because you mentioned the games that we get this week. So, Jonny, if you're good, let's get right into our picks.
Yeah.
So here's kind of the status of the Fifth and Goal Sports Group. If you have been picking College Pick'em on ESPN, we welcome you to join our Fifth and Goal group. I know we're halfway through the season, but it is an open group, so I really shouldn't be advertising this, but if your picks have been good, slide on in. We do have a prize for the winner right now. I had to give a shout out to Ryan Peoples, who's really been leading from the very beginning, and he's in the 96th percentile of pickers right now. So that's excellent.
Oh, nice.
He's got 248 points. That is the lead in the group. I'm currently third with 233. I'm gaining some ground on the leader. Not there yet. Jonny, you are in 6th with 218, so you're 15 points behind me. Still relatively slim, even with 6 weeks in. We had the exact same number of points. We each had 47 points. I think we probably picked about the exact same thing somehow, even though I promise you we do make these picks individually. Johnny's not in my ear telling me what to pick or vice versa. I know we're going to have some differences this week, so let's get into it.
Yeah.
We're starting with... Oh, that's interesting. ESPN just glitched out, and now it's showing 100% of people picking one thing. That's not going to be the case because Michigan's hosting a good Penn State game. Penn State team. 87% of people are picking Michigan. I have to believe it's number one. Maybe they just don't believe that Penn State can actually win the big games because this, truthfully, is where Penn State, historically under James Franklin, has faltered. I'd also say, historically, prior to last season, Jim Harbaugh wasn't all that great in these kind of games either. I think we've got a just classic Big Ten slugfest in store. I do like Michigan at home. I think they've got the higher ceiling with J.J. McCarthy, But if he's not quite to that ceiling, then Sean Clifford is plenty capable, plenty experienced, but it's going to be a tough environment on the road. They're doing a maze out in the big house. I've got Michigan.
Yeah, Penn State traditionally struggles on the road. Really, both of these teams struggle against the other one on the road significantly. I just don't trust Sean Clifford in a big game to make the. And I talked about it on the podcast. The key matchup truly is the Penn State secondary being on islands, perhaps, for most of the game on that talented Michigan wide receiver group. McCarthy has really struggled to connect deep down the field. He will have to make 2 or 3 of those throws to spread out the Penn State defense to make them respect the passing game and drop out of the box a little bit more. But Manny Diaz, I'm sure, has been, getting some stuff ready for this game. Penn State had a bye week coming into this one. So I'm sure Manny Diaz will have some things ready to go for the young McCarthy in this game. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him struggle more than you probably have seen him struggle until this week. So it'll be a really great game. I know me and Aaron are in the same place here, but by no means are we saying this will not be a competitive game, perhaps even down to the last drive or two.
Well, and I said it last week, this is one of those games too where it's almost a feel game for me. Like, I'm picking Michigan at first. But if I kind of get some weird vibes or like you said, Manny Diaz off a bye week, he already runs like super complicated stuff. And JJ McCarthy just simply really hasn't seen anything like it. And I was overall pretty impressed with how Penn State handled a high-powered passing attack at Purdue. I know that was week 1, and we're in a much different place here. We'll see. I am picking Michigan at home. I'll probably stick with that, but I'm not closing off the possibility of potentially changing that pick, depending on, I don't know, just how I feel, I guess.
Sure.
So, all right, there's that. And now we take to the Big 12, Oklahoma. Yikes, probably the worst loss in program history, and I don't think I'm actually overstating that. I think it's just legitimately the worst loss they've ever had. They are taking on a Kansas team that, although they lost to TCU, I think proved to everybody yet again that this is a legitimate team, a team worthy of staying in the top 25, which they did. Now they take on an Oklahoma team that, gut check time. Oklahoma, what are you going to do with your season? Are you just putting your head between your legs and just tanking? You're going to get a 4-8 year and you try again next year? Or are you going to beat a good Kansas team and get 9 and, win out or get close to that 8-4, 9-3, end up in the Alamo Bowl or something? I'm curious where this game is going to be such a key indicator of where's the trajectory truly for this Oklahoma program under Brent Venables. I'm actually picking Oklahoma to win. Now, that's assuming Dylan Gabriel comes back from injury. If he does not, I'm picking Kansas, and I don't think Oklahoma wins this by a lot, by any stretch of the imagination, even with Gabriel. And also quarterback concerns for Kansas as well. It's really who's playing on either side. But I'm picking the Sooners at home. I do not feel good about it, though.
No, this is really exactly what you just ended on, Aaron, how I'm going to pick this game. Right now I'm picking Kansas because I actually have, shockingly, a lot more faith in Kansas's depth at quarterback compared to Oklahoma's.
Absolutely.
So if we're talking 2 backups playing in this game, I'm picking Kansas as well. Even without Jalen Daniels, I mean, Bean was spinning the ball, man. He looked good. And that's because Jalen Daniels actually replaced him towards the end of last season. He has plenty of starter experience. He's ready to go. So when it comes to those things, really, without Dylan Gabriel, there's not a chance I pick up. Dylan Gabriel plays, I might have to rethink it, especially being at home. We'll see if that crowd's energized. Things go bad quickly. Oklahoma is one of those big power programs. The fans will turn on them quickly. So that's also something to watch for. I'm going with the Jayhawks for now, but monitoring closely the quarterback health on both teams. That very easily could change.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what to make of Oklahoma right now. I mean, that's could be a really bad mess. We'll see.
The defense is just atrocious, and Kansas at least showed that they have a pulse against Iowa State, and I'd even argue against TCU. 38 points on them, but TCU was forced to work and earn
Oh yeah,
those points in that game.
yeah, absolutely. And like you talked about the transfer portal and how it impacts some teams and how it doesn't. The quarterback position, and TCU is a great example, because think about the difference between TCU, who retains Max Duggan even though he loses his starting position. He was a guy that started a bunch of games for TCU, but he stuck with the program. An injury, he's inserted right back. He's a Heisman candidate. TCU's undefeated. Oklahoma, they lose Dylan Gabriel, and they don't have a backup quarterback that they feel confident that can even throw a pass. I probably should have looked this up before the show, but what was the snap count of tight ends and running backs taking direct snaps trying to run the Wildcat?
This defense, I'm not comparing Kansas defense to Texas. They're not going to get a shutout, even if it's the backup. But, man, I believe a very one-dimensional offense. Yeah, no Dylan Gabriel, no chance.
Yeah.
No chance.
Yeah. So, again, that's a pick that I'm making now. May change. All right. We talked about the Big Ten West. Jonny,
I can't believe they're making us pick this game.
Do we have to have a conversation about the Big Ten West Championship happening on Saturday that absolutely nobody's talking about? Minnesota heads to Illinois. Yeah, I know Nebraska. Yes. I don't even know how to have this conversation. I'm picking Minnesota on the road for now. Illinois is 5-1, and good for them. They're ranked in the AP top 25. Are they one of the top 25 best teams in college football? Probably not. But what Brett Bielema has done is very impressive. This is truly one of Illinois' best starts to a season in a very, very long time. I do think Minnesota finds a way. If you like running backs, if you like just ginormous offensive linemen, then this is the game for you. This is just about as sicko's Big Ten as you're going to get. But it's sicko's Big Ten, and it means something, because truly the winner of this game will perhaps be, along with Nebraska, the favorite for the Big Ten West. I can't believe I'm saying these words out of my mouth. I'm picking the Golden Gophers.
Even Purdue's in it.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that too. Yeah, I was really bummed. Honestly, Minnesota's lost to Purdue. Like, I love Purdue. I was like, oh, Minnesota. And I know Ibrahim was injured. And again, that's a thing that I'll have to check his status. He was out with an ankle. If he's not healthy, then I am picking Illinois. There's no question about that. Chase Brown, equally as talented on the other side. Who are you taking in this very intriguing matchup?
I'm picking Minnesota based on Mo playing. Mo doesn't play. Huge concern. Yeah. I mean, look at how
it's a completely different team.
What Tanner Morgan looked like without him against Purdue. This Illinois team, 5-1, they should be 6-0 against Indiana. And this team at the beginning of the season, they better start out fast if they wanted to make a bowl game. They're clearly going to make a bowl game now. The West also just isn't as good as we expected. Here's me hoping, though, we have Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State's lurking in the East, and we have, Illinois and Minnesota perhaps kind of secondary rivals for Ohio State, Michigan over there, both trophy games. I would like to petition to the Big Ten Conference for the trophies to be up for grabs in that Big Ten title game if it happens. I would like to see the Buck make an appearance in Indianapolis, or the Little Brown Jug even, if that would happen. But I'm super impressed with offense. Needs a lot of work still. Bielema's doing God's work, just like Leipold is out in Kansas. He's overachieving right now. Ibrahim plays, Minnesota wins off a bye again as well. Remember that PJ Flex had an extra week, and Illinois just barely scraped by in that just Big Ten slugfest of a 9-6 finish against Iowa. Yeah. Iowa in the Big Ten West, the only two teams that I'd really say are really out is Northwestern and Iowa, which is shocking to say that Iowa's really the only other team in the West that I would say doesn't have a chance to win.
Yeah. I like the quarterback play potential of Minnesota better. I think if push comes to shove, if you get Ibrahim versus Brown, let's say they kind of, cancel each other out, I'll take Morgan, even though it's kind of hit or miss sometimes. By the way, sources on Twitter, I'm just kind of scrolling through talking about the Big Ten, and this isn't a surprise necessarily, but Cade McNamara likely done at Michigan. I mean, obviously with the injury, but done as far as transferring out for a chance.
Oh, he's already announced that.
It's not been announced officially, but there's a lot of sources that are indicating that. So we talked about transfer portal, backup quarterback. That's something to keep in mind as Michigan goes forward. Anyways, I mean, obviously that's kind of been the situation with Cade's injury for the last few weeks, but moving forward, that might be more of a theme. All right. Next pick's the big one. It's where game day is going. Alabama heads to Tennessee. Rocky Top. How many times will they play it? Will Rocky Top be played more than Tennessee has points? That's really what we should be picking. I'm picking Alabama. Again, we've got a lot of assumptions going into this. I'm assuming that Bryce Young is relatively healthy and able to play. Look, Tennessee, I'm super excited for Tennessee. This is awesome. The atmosphere is going to be incredible. This is probably the most hype Tennessee has been for a football game, probably since they were in one of the original BCS national championships. But it's almost too hype. They're showing videos of people in Tennessee welding backup goalposts together because they're ready to rip them out of the stadium. It's almost too much foreshadowing for me. I think Alabama, Nick Saban, and yes, I'm assuming Bryce Young plays. Who has been better in the last two seasons than Bryce Young of getting a team that has looked bad and finding a way to get victories over LSU, over Auburn, over Texas? It's been Bryce Young. If he's there, I've got faith that he'll somehow find a way. I don't want to take anything away from Hendon Hooker and Tennessee and what they've been doing because it's been spectacular. And by the way, they've been doing this all without Cedric Tillman.
Who should be back.
I just can't. Alabama's broken my brain. I want to pick Tennessee. I will be rooting for Tennessee. I've got to pick Alabama.
I want the Volunteers to win badly. I won't even that one. I've been with Tennessee for a while. They're one of my random adopted teams. I don't know how it happens or why, but Aaron can vouch for that. I thought they might actually beat Alabama with, I think that was 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, you bet me $5. That was the easiest earned $5 I ever made.
Man, that was rough. But I got the Volunteers winning this game. Bryce Young or no Bryce Young. I think the key, Aaron, with every game that you said that Bryce Young saved him, and don't get me wrong, he has been just brilliant in those games. They're playing bad teams in all of those games except for Texas. That's a bad Auburn team that they nearly lost to. That's a bad A&M team this year that they lost to. It was an average A&M team they did lose to last year. That was an average Aggie team. Get out of here, SEC homeboys. They were average. It is an average team. They struggle on the road. I think if this was in Tuscaloosa, I might feel a tad different. But last week against A&M was at home. And I know you're playing with a backup quarterback, but you made Haynes King look better than he did against Appalachian State at home. And listen, I understand there's improvement that happens, but that's not acceptable. This team feels so reliant on Will Anderson creating quarterback pressure and Toa trying desperately to get everybody lined up, because you could throw a pass interference flag or holding on these corners every single down if you want to. And the refs did in the Texas game for almost an entire half, just the flags, and they were all warranted. If Tennessee gets any kind of home cooking as far as officiating, I don't know how Alabama survives this, because Tennessee is going to get theirs. That's actually more of a concern for me, is Alabama's defense and their ability to actually stop the Tennessee offense. Alabama's offense has shown that they can be limited severely. At Texas, Bryce Young played that whole game. I believe, Aaron, they have 19 points and they snuck out of there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that happens, but there are significant flaws. The offensive line is good. It's good. It's not special. It's not the normal Alabama. Wide receivers still can't find separation and get open for their quarterbacks. Milroe, I know he wasn't great. Wide receivers did not help him on Saturday.
Has that been the biggest shock of Alabama season? Because that has to me. I just figured it's Alabama. I know we don't know those names, but they'll find a way to figure it out. And I just feel like they haven't really.
And it's really the second year in a row. Talking about the transfer portal, if they don't get Jamison Williams, that's a 3-loss Alabama.
Yeah.
Tide fans, I don't mean that as an insult to you guys. It's just he was that brilliant last year in those games. And that's the other thing, Aaron, that I'm kind of going back to. Like, Bryce was going to Jamison every time last year when there was a significant moment, game on the line. Where is he? And the two of them made that play. So I'm going with the Volunteers. I really think can balance. It's the type of quarterback that typically can beat them. It's on the road. They'll struggle with penalties. I think Alabama finally pays for cutting it so close so many times in the last 2 years. I think they finally got in this one.
Yeah, that'd be pretty interesting, and sets up a very interesting discussion about the SEC West. I mean, we're not talking about some of these one-loss SEC teams in the West. And look, I know beating Alabama is a very difficult thing to do, and maybe Tennessee is quite literally the only team poised to do it this year. But who knows? Who knows? We'll see. Should be.
State.
Yeah, I mean, think about how 2014 this season feels, just simply by teams that have a chance to be good. You've got Ole Miss is undefeated. Mississippi State's a one-loss team. TCU's undefeated. I know Baylor's not really there, but just substitute Baylor for Oklahoma State. You've got some weird Big 12 stuff that could happen again this year. I mean, Tennessee was decent that year, if I'm remembering correctly. And by decent, I mean they started out well and went 8-4, but it's got some 2014 vibes kind of there. We've already got the Ohio State drubbing of Wisconsin out of the way if we're checking things off the list of things that happened in 2014 as well. So, all right, very good. The next, speaking of Oklahoma State, TCU, let's pick that game. Oh man, this is tough. I think Oklahoma State finds a way. It's hard to pin down Oklahoma State this year. They haven't faced a ton of tough tests. I know they beat Baylor. I know they beat Texas Tech, not taking away anything from those schools. But you look at, they've been outgained in some games, but they've also been outgained in some games that they had really big leads early and kind of let off the gas. And they've won the 2 games they were supposed to win, or the 2 games really that were challenging. It's just hard to know. I think Spencer Sanders can find a way to beat a good TCU team on the road. And it's really sad that this game is being played at the same time as Alabama, Tennessee, because man, this game truly deserves everyone's full attention, and it probably won't get that, but still should be a tremendous Big 12 game, and 2 undefeated 5-0 teams.
It's sad because this is probably the location of game day. In my mind, if it's not for the Tennessee game, TCU, I wouldn't say escaped because they definitely earned that game in Kansas, but it was just a brilliant game. Yeah. So fun to watch. One of the best of the year, truly. We're all big Kansas fans around here, but it was truly just from a third party, like a great game to watch. I struggle with this game. I just think Spencer Sanders has taken that next step. His first few years, there was that concern that he let 1 mistake become 5, not even 2.
Yeah.
That has been drawn back. Gundy's being willing to kick field goals and not go for it in 4th down every time in the red zone. And that's been the reason they've been able to hold off Baylor and Texas Tech in some of those games. My main concern is, though, Aaron, what you said, they don't always play a full 4-quarter game. Baylor first half, brilliant. They're killing them. The defense is even just outstanding. And 3rd quarter, they kind of let them back into the game. You can't do that with TCU this week. Maybe you can, and you just get a big enough margin and let your offense keep going. But this will be a strong test for that. The defense still has that same flow from Jim Knowles of we give up a lot of yards, we make enough plays, get a couple turnover on downs, we hold you to field goals on the red zone. I think there's enough of that they slip by. Really could close game though. Would not be shocked in the slightest if TCU is able to pull it off. But I'm going with experience here, and that'll be Mike Gundy and Spencer Sanders.
Yeah, we agree there. There's another 3:30 game that's also flying under the radar, and a team that could be flying under the radar. I am, of course, talking about the undefeated Syracuse Orange, who are hosting an NC State team that I still think there's some glaring weaknesses on this team, and a team that lost Leary, and that's probably the biggest concern, is Leary in a sling after this game. They found a way to beat Florida State. I'll give them credit. They really had no business winning that game, but they did.
No.
They're 5-1. Their lone loss to Clemson. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to pick Syracuse at home with all of that momentum against a backup quarterback, NC State, a Wolfpack team that, yes, they are 5-1, but they've been kind of shaky. I'm picking the orange. This will maybe just be a one confidence pick. I'm kind of feeling it. I've got a soft spot in my heart for the orange. I'm picking Syracuse. Probably wrong, but whatever.
I'm actually picking Syracuse too.
Okay,
and it's because they're at home. It's because Leary's hurt. It's the two things together. One of them not being the case, I think, even without Leary and NC State being at, I would pick NC State just at home because I think the defense would be able to carry them. That has been the one thing, and that's the reason they beat Florida State. The defense is excellent. Even in that Clemson game, you could see the defense is holding up, doing their part. They're being completely let down by the offense and their inability to run the ball, and them having one wide receiver that Leary can actually throw to who creates any kind of separation. I just don't see NC State with a backup back scoring enough points to win the game. It's probably going to be low scoring. Now, if Leary is playing and is healthy, I will rethink it. That's kind of the story with our picks this week.
Yeah.
Quarterback health.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm surprised that we're both picking Syracuse, but happily surprised. So off the heels of that game, we tweeted out from our account, Florida State had a chance to, and I know field goal kicking has been shaky for Florida State, but had every opportunity, looked like they were set up in a 2-point game to kick a game-winning field goal. They would have won 2019. And why is that big? It's big because it's a big win for Florida State. They lose a game, and those are, unfortunately, the games that they've lost the last few years. They've just found ways to lose those games. That was the case on Saturday, but it was big also because they would have been 5-1, and then they would have been hosting Clemson. The game's at 7:30. Probably ranked. They're obviously still
ranked.
Yeah, exactly. They're still playing Clemson. They're still hosting them at 7:30. The game feels a little bit different. I think Clemson is going to take care of business. I think Clemson is back to the Clemson we know. Maybe not to the Clemson we know of Trevor Lawrence winning a national title. I don't think DJ is quite that good to get them to that level, but winning the ACC, running the table, going undefeated, yes, because we are quickly approaching the point where Clemson's running out of losable games. Now, Notre Dame's looking better, and Syracuse is doing some really good things, and Florida State will probably make it interesting for a half, but I am taking Clemson. And look, maybe South Carolina, I shouldn't say that, because South Carolina, big win against Kentucky. But anyways, taking Clemson.
Yeah, I'm taking Clemson too. We were both let down because I think we picked Florida State last week, and they had no reason to lose that game. It told you also the importance of kickers in college.
Yeah.
Man, because they don't make that play call if they trust their kicker. Mm-hmm. And because he's part of a big reason why they lost to Wake Forest. And it's just been a big source of consternation this year. They tried to go for the gut punch and win the game with a quick touchdown. Clearly, NC State knew it too. So that's a problem. I have a hard time picking a team that I thought maybe could win the game because the only way I see Florida State to really having a chance to win this game is probably on a field goal. They're going to have to convert all of their opportunities into points. I don't trust the kicking game. I think it could be actually an interesting game, but I think Clemson is going to find a way to get out of there. They'll be able to win, probably by a touchdown. They'll cover. So actually a 4-point spread. Shocking.
That is shocking. We'll see if Jonny picks that in his best bets here coming up. We do have a couple more picks to get through. We talked about Kentucky. Will Levis was, I believe, knocked out of this game at one point for Kentucky. They're playing Mississippi State. Mississippi State, one of the biggest surprises of this season. They're 5-1. I'm expecting Mississippi State to win. We've kind of both been probably overly hard on Will Levis, not because we dislike him, but just because in response to everyone just kind of drooling over him from an NFL scout perspective. Yeah. I get it on one hand. He's big, strong, and white, quite frankly. So I understand why NFL people are excited about him. I just have not been wowed at all. I know you feel the same way. And regardless, nothing against him personally, other than, as you said, Mayo and the coffee should go straight to jail for that. But Mississippi State, I think they're going to keep rolling. A decent defense Kentucky's got, so that could be an interesting challenge for Mike Leach's offense. But the Bulldogs have been impressive. And man, maybe we're setting up a Mississippi State-Alabama showdown that we did not think we were going to get this year. So that's awesome.
Yeah, so you're going with Bulldogs on that.
Yeah, I am. Yep.
I am too. I think part of that's just consistency, where I have just not believed in Kentucky this year. Given every time you start to think Mississippi State's actually a team, they let you down as well. But that also told you how reliant Kentucky is on Williams. And that's where we've never said that he's a bad quarterback. We just don't really see the translated first round, top 10. People have even said number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. I just have a hard time seeing that or imagining that, but he's clearly extremely valuable to Kentucky and what they do. I mean, they look awful against South Carolina at home. I mean, South Carolina dominated them. That's really bad. I expect, hopefully, for Will to be back. If he's not back, there's not a chance. This will move way up in my confidence picks if Will Levis is not playing in it. Mississippi State, Will Rogers, nobody's talking about him because they lost to LSU in a close game earlier in the season. He's playing really well under Mike Leach, so I'm definitely going to go with the Bulldogs.
Yeah, he's got 2 games of 5 or more touchdowns, so we agree there. Utah and USC, I know we talked about this on the podcast. We both got Utah, I think for similar reasons. They're at home. Look, you throw out the records in this game, in my opinion, because Utah has been really good at Rice Eccles, especially in games like this. It will be an emotional scene from Salt Lake City. I'm picking the Utes, even though they struggled against UCLA. That defense isn't quite up to typical Kyle Whittingham standards, but I think USC showed you that even Caleb Williams isn't invincible. Didn't have his best game. Now it was enough to win against Washington State, who's good by quite a good margin. But I'm picking Utah.
Yeah. Part of the reason for picking Utah is I just have a going into that game late in the season. And so I just expect one of them to trip up at some point. This is a very losable game. I mean, Utah is still favored in it despite losing last week. That kind of says everything. I think Utah finds a way to win this game, salvage the season, stay in that race in the Pac-12. They have 2 losses, but only one of them's conference. There's no divisions now. So they beat USC, and they're in still a very good spot to make it to the Pac-12 title game. They're still sitting real well, kind of with the big 3, I guess, if you will, although I would include Oregon in that conversation as well. Really great Pac-12. Love to see them have so much depth and be just quality football, especially this late in the year where we're normally like just pushing them to the back burner. But I got Utah home at night, I believe, Aaron.
Yeah, 8 o'clock kick.
Well, wonderful. This will be a team that can potentially dominate USC in the trenches, and the only other team to push them in that way was Oregon State. You saw how that game went. I would be stunned if this was a multiple score game either way, though. It will go down to the end.
Yeah, very cool. All right, speaking of Washington State, tough stretch for them. They go to USC, now they go to Oregon State. I think Washington State finds a way to rebound. I think they'll rely on their defense to find a way to beat Oregon State. I'm picking the Cougars to win in Corvallis.
I'm actually picking the Cougars as well. And that's just a faith in. We've seen just turnover proneness out of Oregon State. I mean, they should have lost to Stanford, Pac-12 after dark. They found a way to get out of there. It's a good Oregon State team. This will be a low-scoring game, maybe a lot of turnovers in general. So more points might be created by the defense than by the offense in this game. I think Washington State just has a more dynamic offense and will find a way to score some points. Although it's in Corvallis, so it's definitely not a gimme with the Beavs.
Yeah, well, that rounds out our picks. Drew said Bama's going to smoke Tennessee after Nick Saban gets after the team after a terrible performance on Saturday. I will say there is something to that in terms of, I think if Alabama rolls Texas A&M by 20, 25, and maybe this isn't the case, but perhaps does Saban have his team's attention a little bit more that they escape the jaws of death against Texas A&M? I don't know. Tennessee's a very, very good team either way, so maybe that part doesn't matter as much. But that's interesting. So
Is Bryce healthy?
well, yeah. Obviously, it comes back to that. Yes,
but I think even if he plays, he's not percent. He will not have. I have.
It's a shoulder. Like
he'll have the same zip on the ball.
Yeah.
It's going to be a velocity problem. It's his throwing shoulder.
Yeah.
I haven't had the exact same injury, but shoulder injuries for a pitcher or for a football, or you're trying to just raise that arm up here.
Yep.
Can be painful in itself. It's hard to get the same zip on. His level of health, was it precautionary that they kind of left him out of A&M? And they thought they could win anyway, or did they really? He cannot go. I think he could not go. Saban just was playing coy with A&M because that game at halftime, you throw Bryce in if you. It being a 3-point game.
Well, and consider too all the drama that happened in the offseason. You don't think Saban inwardly didn't want to beat Texas A&M by 50? And obviously the best way to do that is with your Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. Right. So I agree. I absolutely think it was not anything to do with resting him. It was just because he was simply not able to play. And yeah, they're not saying a lot. Who knows how long this injury could last for Bryce Young? Obviously, we hope he's...
And he won't tell us anything.
Yeah, he's not going to tell us anything. Obviously, we hope he's back as soon as possible. Would love to see him play in this game. Drew also said Utah lost to UCLA, who is way worse than USC. No way they lose to Utah. I would disagree with you on 2 points. I don't think we know that UCLA is way worse than USC. I think they've shown that they're very capable. They've got one of the best running backs in the conference with Charbonnet. DTR is one of the best quarterbacks. The defense has come along. Chip Kelly's got it figured out. Now, if USC and UCLA were playing today right now in a neutral field, yeah, I'm picking USC. But remember, that was a Utah team that went on the road to UCLA, and even though we can get into a discussion about how few UCLA fans actually show up, I'm telling you, Utah at night is going to be a different animal, especially with what is going on pregame with the helmets they're going to wear. Check that out and stay tuned next week. Yeah, it's going to be a very, very different atmosphere. Just ask Oregon because it's the same thing. This was a 2-loss team last year that hosted Oregon. I know it was later in the year. We're talking about a very similar, very, very similar game here.
And it's not even that UCLA gains much at being. And what you said, Aaron, playing at night at home, it's not the same team. And you have to remember, USC might actually be UCLA, but it's a matchup question at times as well. And this is, remember, Chip Kelly's been at UCLA now. Has depth. He has his players. He has his guys. The main concern USC is depth issues. Most of these are transferring guys. Jordan Addison got dinged up in the game on Saturday. That's a big concern.
Yeah.
USC is, any of those key contributors don't even get knocked out of the game, but roll an ankle, they're hobbling around. They're compromised as a team because they don't have that next guy yet. USC will get there in the next couple of years, but they're not there right now.
Yeah, and I know this is probably true of any team. Well, it's not, because think about Ohio State, right? They lose Jackson Smith and Jigba, which, for the purpose of this conversation, it's the equivalent, right? Basically, these were the two guys you were weighing for the Blitnikoff. It goes to Addison. If Addison is injured for USC, this completely changes USC's season. I know Caleb Williams is really good, but that completely changes USC's season. Jackson Smith and Jigba has basically not played at all for Ohio State, and they've got the best offense in the country. And he may not return. That's a conversation we could have a different day, whether he's actually going to return. I know it's kind of always been, is he going to play today? Is he not? There's a real possibility that he doesn't play for Ohio State. He's looking to the NFL. I'm not putting words in his mouth. I'm just saying it's something to consider. But Ohio State has the depth. They've got, and now obviously I'm talking about the best receiving group in the country, but they've got depth, and now you insert Marvin Harrison, who now all of a sudden is like, oh, well, hand him the Blitnikoff. Or you give it to Ibuka, and you're like, oh, you could have it. Or Julian Fleming has had incredible stats, even though he's missed 2 games this season. I'm not as concerned about Ohio State. I mean, heck, their running backs haven't been healthy. If Travis Dye gets injured for USC, I'm panicking a little bit. I'm like, ooh, that team loses 2 or 3 games now. If Jordan Addison gets injured, I'm like, that team could lose 2 or 3 games now. It's possible. USC's schedule is very backloaded. because they still play Notre Dame, they still play UCLA, and obviously they're going to Utah. So we'll see. Fascinating though, and look, maybe you're right. Maybe USC is really as good as their top ranking, their billing right now. But we're about to find out, because I'm telling you, Utah at night, it's a different monster. All right, that does conclude our picks of the week. Drew, thanks for your comments. We'll see how it goes. Maybe Alabama and USC will carry the torch and win pretty easily. I think we both have our doubts, but we'll find out. Should be good. All right, Jonny. Look, it's been a rough stretch for you. I'm sorry, but you've got some bets this week that I'll do my best to give you a seal of approval or not, because sometimes I get a sense it's like, that's a bad idea. I told you last week, don't bet Air Force. Not that you bet, but don't make it a best bet. But anyways, it's the second half of the season. There's some teams out there that are second half teams, and that might just be true about your picks. So second half, we'll just kind of forget the records. What do you have for us this week in best bets?
Yeah, we won't even go over the games from last week. Way too many. I just dug that hole deeper. So we'll go rapid fire here, though. We already talked Tennessee and Alabama. I think there's no way Tennessee doesn't cover that 7 spread. I think way too much on the road. I'm going Tennessee. You'll see I'm actually picking games this week rather than the off-the-radar ones. I have Baylor. They're only a 3.5-point favorite at West Virginia. I realize it's in more. Baylor's much better than people think they are. They have 2 losses on this list to Oklahoma State, and then that weird game in Provo night. They're still in play in the Big. I don't think that they're probably going to be a Big 12 title game. They're a quality team. Trust Dave Aranda, and West Virginia's probably the first team in the conference, even though they're really not that bad of a team overall. But I do think Baylor won half. So we'll right now, and again, this one could be taken based on quarterback health. I do have Kansas covering against Oklahoma at Oklahoma. Again, a lot of this is Dylan Gabriel playing? Dylan Gabriel's playing. This one will be taken. He doesn't play. I love the position here with Kansas, 7-point dog. I mean, whether Jalen Daniels is playing or it's Bean in there, they'll be able to score on this Oklahoma easily. Then I have Texas. I'm just full go the other way against Iowa State now. Texas is going to be on a roll now. Quinn Ewers' second game. I don't think there's going to be a letdown after that Oklahoma game, partially because it was first game back. I think there's a lot of momentum going. I think they put it on State in this one. I know they're 14-point favorites. That's the biggest one by far that I'm touching this week. I know it's a big number.
I wouldn't
trying
touch
to
that
stay
one.
away from those, but I think Texas rolls Iowa State this week.
All right.
And then I do have Clemson favorite. I know it's in Tallahassee. I think they cover Florida State. I'm not saying that this is a blowout, but points is a small enough number. I really like Clemson being able to play. Florida State can't kick field goals, and when it comes to picking point spreads, that will be significant in this one. DJ definitely is playing his best football. Like you said, Aaron, though, earlier, Clemson is not at that same Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence level. They've fixed some things stable. So I do have Clemson covering. I have North Carolina covering again. This is maybe my riskiest. I think they are 6-point favorites. North Carolina, with Drake May, can just score at will. I think they could win just by 7 and cover. So I feel pretty good. I think Duke achieved early in the season. Duke's not bad. I just don't think Duke can keep up with North Carolina's offense. And then this is my off-the-radar game. Since Hayner's been hurt, State struggle. San Jose State, if you haven't been paying attention, 1 loss, looking really strong. Probably favorites out in the. They're a 6.5 favorite against a beleaguered Fresno State team. The Spartans in that one. So I think San Jose State gets that one. That's my most off the radar. And then I would have liked to pick Hawaii to beat Nevada, actually. Hawaii is at home. This is my sickos game of the week as well. I think Hawaii would beat Nevada. If you missed the brilliance of it last week, Nevada, Colorado State probably takes the cake as far as the best sickos game of the season. Colorado State got their win. Their only 2 touchdowns in the game were both in the first quarter, and both defensive touchdowns. Pick 6, scoop and score off of. Well, gotta love it. Gotta love it. So I would be picking the Rainbow Warriors in that one. There is literally no line on ESPN to pick. So that tells you everything you need.
Wow. All right, good bets. I think I would push back on Texas. I know they look good. Iowa State has a way to just not lose by 14 usually, so I don't care the opponent. But I think you'd be all right. Hopefully this week. But again,
I'm not picking Iowa State anymore. No more Service Academy, and no more 20 points. They're not touching them.
Smart. All right. Well, very good. Jonny, thanks for recording this show as always. Look, we've got a really good week in store, so I'm looking forward to it a lot. Again, if you watching on YouTube, well, actually that is how you're watching because this show is available on YouTube. So our past shows are also available. There's a playlist of our past live streams if you want to check out more. I just want to say thank you for those that tuned in. Thanks for the comments. This was one of our most watched streams, so thank you guys for checking this out tonight. And enjoy Monday Night Football. Enjoy everything else happening in the world of sports this week. We will be back probably next week. We actually got to figure out schedules a little bit as far as this show, but we'll be back. And obviously, we're continuing the conversation on social media, so make sure you're following us on Twitter. That's kind of our stream of college football consciousness right now at the moment. So check us out there at Fifth Goal Sports. I think that wraps us up. So thank you, YouTube. We'll see you guys next